until showtime. 3 minutes until showtime. 2 minutes until showtime. 1 minute until showtime. Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
With Election Day in less than 2 months, what is on the line is not a simple difference of policies, it is the fate of our nation. Judicial activists at all levels have put roadblocks in the way of justice. The 34-time convicted felon will not see a prison cell before Election Day. MAGA activists at state and local levels are working to disenfranchise voters, and foreign governments are paying conservative bloggers to spread their propaganda. On Liberal Dan Radio, we cut through the lies, unwind the spin, and give facts to counter their fiction. Will you do what needs to be done to make sure our nation isn't taken over by an autocratic despot? Or will you sit back and watch as our nation falls to ruin? The clock is ticking. Act now before it's too late. Welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, That's Right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. I don't know how well we'll be able to do phone calls today because I'm assuming John didn't hear through the headphones, at least, the intro song coming from the computer, so I don't think he'll be able to hear the call. So if you want to join the conversation, just come in and go to the YouTube stream. LiberalDanRadio.com is the channel. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Of course, the more you interact, the more the algorithm gets going, and Al Gore definitely needs more rhythm. You can also support the show by buying memberships, becoming a Liberal Danimal, super chat, super stickers. You can also go to twitch.tv/LiberalDanRadio and be a follow over there for free. Subscribe over there. You can subscribe for free. It doesn't cost you anything if you have Amazon Prime. You could also go to Venmo at Liberal Dan or buymeacoffee.com/LiberalDanRadio, or the same link is on the Buy Me a Cider button at LiberalDanRadio.com. Finally, you can be a Patreon patron, patreon.com/LiberalDan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Either way will get you there. But without further ado, for my inaugural video chat guest, we welcome to the show Trucker John. How you doing, John? What's going on?
Hey, little man, what's up? Can you hear me okay?
I can't hear you. It's still a little wonky. It still sounds like it's echoey, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I tried to hook up my mic and it's just not working right. But
you know.
so we're just, I don't know if we belabor that point, but hopefully you can hear me okay.
I can understand you. It's just maybe a little tinny and a little bit echoey, but I think everyone can hear you, understand you fine. So, John brought up the idea of doing a night before election eve joint podcast, and I was more than happy to do so. I love the Trucker John program and during the day, and you know, we obviously share some very similar political opinions, and I thought it would be great to have another knowledgeable person about politics to be discussing the very important issues that are coming into play tomorrow, and what people really need to be thinking about if they haven't cast a ballot yet. We have a lot of ballots that have already been cast, so those people, you know, best they can do is help get others to the polls, convince others to get to the polls, because the higher the turnout, the more likely it is for a Vice President Harris to win. So if you had to, John, if you had to name one issue that you think stands out above everything else, like that you think is going to be the major thing that causes a win or a loss for Vice President Harris, what do you think that issue is going to be?
No, it's without a doubt, it's got to be the abortion issue. You know, Rovember is going to be in full force. That has brought so many people to the polls, I think, and it's caused so many, I think, Republicans to cross over and vote for Kamala Harris.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I agree with you 100%. I mean, that was going to be my number one as well. It is damn near impossible for me to think of anything that's going to be what drives people. But everybody talks about the economy, everybody talks about immigration and the border, and those are obviously big issues that are being discussed, and we'll definitely get to those issues as well. But people are dying because of these draconian abortion laws. When you have Liz Cheney saying that your abortion law has gone too far, your abortion law has gone too far.
Yeah, absolutely. And whoever thought we would be like, you know, in the same bed, so to speak, as Liz Cheney, you know, I mean.
If you would have asked me on January 5th of 2020, if you would have told me on January 5th of 2020 that 4.5 years from now, you and Liz Cheney will be fighting on the same side, I would have thought you were smoking something really good and wondering why you hadn't shared.
It's really remarkable. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, people crossing over, especially prominent, well-known Republicans. You know things are bad if they're all jumping ship. You know, for them, bad for the Republicans. Trump.
There's always going to be people. I mean, you have the MAGA types who will never have their opinions changed, regardless of what you say. It's a cult.
Right.
They can't. But there are still people who, back when Hillary Clinton said that half of Trump supporters were a basket of deplorables, which basically got turned into all of them because they don't understand English, because Donald Trump, after the 2016 Nevada primary, said he loves the poorly educated. She said the other half of his supporters were just, well-intentioned, good people who, disagree on policy and want to change and this, that, or the other. And she was basically trying to reach out to those other half. I don't know if it's half anymore, but maybe. I mean, there are definitely some who did vote for him in 2016 and in 2020 who have now have jumped ship, which is good. And there are probably more that are targetable, that can be persuaded, or might have already left that sinking ship. Problem is, how much is the sinking ship? How much damage is that sinking ship gonna cause? Is like how much more can we get the people out? How much can we drive turnout? How many states can we win? Because we're already at an electoral disadvantage. We have to outperform the Republicans every time nationally if we want to ever win the presidency. So,
Yeah, man, we've got some good signs. Like all these special elections that have been happening, and the 22 midterms. The Democrats did outperform a lot of those the polling, and so we've had good signs along the way.
They've been doing it since 2018. I mean, nobody expected the Democrats to perform as well as they did in 2018 when we retook the House. Nobody expected Biden to do so overwhelmingly well in 2020. Nobody expected us to be able to fend off the red wave that was coming, that became a red little puddle in 2022. Because, I mean, they took the House, obviously, but not by the big margins that they anticipated. And so everything, that those are things that make me cautiously optimistic. But I never begrudge the ability of the American people to do something incredibly stupid, especially since 2016 happened.
2016 always creeps up. I mean, I get all happy, and I'm like, Kamala Harris she's gonna cream him tomorrow, But then 2016 says, wait a minute, John, don't, and I remember that awful night, in 2016. It was so horrible.
Oh, when I knew it was over when I think in 2016 I knew it was over when Florida didn't go the right way, when Florida was lost, when Trump had to lead in Florida before the panhandles closed, because for some reason they decided to not draw the demarcation line between the eastern and central time zones. They decided to not include the tip or the back tip of Florida, not the other tip of Florida. I guess Florida has a double tip. Who knows? But it's I just sank, at the point where we're at a friend's house, and I was just looking at the TV with just a sullen face, and one of my friends, who they're Muslim, and they were like, what's wrong? And I was like, this is done. It's already done. I called it at that point, because if this is how it was gonna go, it was bad. That's one of the reasons why I want to start tomorrow at 7 my time, which is 8 Eastern, by doing my live stream, simply because of the fact that I want to be able to start catching those poll closings, see the numbers as they come in, because while we may not know for a while, for a few days, we may on the other hand see things that say, oh, this is going really well for us, or this is going really bad for us. So we will definitely see what's going on with that. First of all, before we continue, let's first of all thank Aaron for being a liberal Danimal for 10 months on YouTube. Appreciate you, Aaron, one half of the Mod Squad. Jolie, best of thoughts out to Jolie for her loss and the family's loss as well. Shouts out, we got Steve, Josh, Rick, Allison in the chat, Dawn, Dean, Teresa. We got TV2 Live in the chat. Dean, I already said Dean. Penny. Alton Gillespie's here. Diz is here. I think we got everything. I think I hit everybody. If I missed you, I'm very I very much apologize. We'll get you later. So, but yeah, like to circle back to the abortion issue, like it's we're always going to have debates with conservatives, I believe, as to what should be legal and what should be not. We're always going to have those discussions and debates, but like there's just another story that I showed in my personal page today. There's just getting to be so many names of people that we could name of patients who have went to the emergency room mid miscarriage, and basically they told this individual, no, we can't perform anything on you to treat your miscarriage unless we can be assured that the fetus is dead. In which case they ended up just causing her to ultimately die because she got sepsis and she died. And I don't know how anybody, we always say, oh, pro-life, it's really pro-forced birth, and we try and attack their label and everything like that. You can't be pro-life if you won't allow somebody to defend their own life in the case of especially a pregnancy where it's doomed. Like, there's no shot of fetal survival, and you're just basically forcing the person to risk further damage. I mean, fortunately for Kate Cox, she was able to leave the state, but other people weren't so lucky, and other people have since died because these Republicans don't give a crap about life. They just want control.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking as you're talking, about how Trump and MAGA, they want to take us back to, whatever era, to pre Roe v. Wade. But it's even worse than that, because at least, when I was born in 1960, my brother, full brother, he was born in 1976, and he's the next one who was born. So there was like a almost 16-year gap between our births. My mom, in between, she had about at least 3 that I know of, maybe 4 miscarriages. Mm-hmm. And at least in those days, and those were at least 2 of those, or at least 2 of those were before prior to Roe v. Wade.
Right.
Roe v. Wade. And at least she got the care. I mean, she didn't have to be afraid that they weren't going to treat her for a miscarriage. At least then. So now they're doing things even worse. Because they wouldn't even, they're so afraid of getting sued or arrested. Texas has these laws now. The doctor will go to jail for 10 years, whatever it is. So now they're afraid because they're afraid they'll get arrested and they'll lose their medical license or whatever. But there's got to be some doctors out there. I've been saying, where are the courageous doctors? They're going to say, you know what, screw it. We're gonna keep this person from dying. I mean, there needs to be some doctors stepping up. Because I realize they have a lot on the line. They go to college for 10 years, whenever they get their medical license, but still, it's just ridiculous. There's got to be, I couldn't, if I were a doctor, I couldn't just sit there and send someone away who's going to go bleed out or die of sepsis or whatever. I just couldn't do it.
I agree with you. In that, if I was a doctor, I also couldn't just. I would have a very hard time sitting back and doing nothing. And the latest defense, Louisiana's Attorney General has used this defense. I think some people who are supposedly again pro-life in Florida have been using this defense to try and make sure that they that the law doesn't get overturned. And because they have that ballot initiative in Florida, which could be a blessing in disguise for us. But so they're trying to say that this is an issue of malpractice, that the doctors have the authority to treat patients in this situations. They just are choosing not to, and by choosing not to, they are putting their patients at risk. And the issue with that is clearly Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas, has basically said that they are going to go after, they are going to go after these hospitals. They are going after these hospitals that if they do the procedures. When Kate Cox wanted to get the procedure and she had a lower court give an injunction on that, they Ken Paxton stepped in and he said, we're going to go after the hospitals if you do not follow what the Texas law is. And so the hospital's like, well, we can't do anything now, because if we do something, we're going to risk losing our license to practice medicine. We're going to risk our doctors, losing their ability, that they might go to prison. And the Supreme Court of Texas didn't even tell the truth in their ruling. So it's not malpractice if the state is basically telling the doctors, we are going to come after you if you perform this procedure, even though, like in the cases of people like Kate Cox, the fetus was dying. There was no chance to save the fetus, none whatsoever, and forcing Kate Cox and others to continue to gestate just increases the chance of death, chance of sepsis, chance of infertility, chance of permanent bodily damage. The way these laws are written, they seem very much to be written that you have to basically be on death's door for it to take place. Like you can't say, 3 months from now, this person is going to risk having severe damage if they're allowed to be pregnant. You have to basically wait for the damage to be happening in order to stop it, which is kind of like you have to wait for somebody to actually fire the bullet at you before you can defend yourself. It's right. Ridiculous.
Yeah. It's just, it's really horrible. And that's why this issue is coming to the forefront as far as, affecting the election. It's going to, so many women are, and all the men who love women, we're not going to stand for it, Even Republicans, they don't want their women to die from a miscarriage or not being able to be treated, So I think there's enough, there are the crazy evangelicals, that really are in with MAGA, and are part of MAGA. But I think there's a lot of Republicans that's why they're coming over. That's the main reason, really, I think.
Right.
And also, I think the other main reason is that they're seeing that people are waking up to the fact that the economy isn't as bad as Trump says it is.
Right.
And they see that his plans are going to really crash the economy. I think a lot of people are becoming aware of that also.
Right. And nothing is as bad as Trump says it is. Not one bit. Like everything he says is a lie. Chris in the YouTube chat goes, what part of if the mother dies, the fetus dies, don't they get? They don't get that clearly. But even in this case, the fetus is already dying. So there's like that's the thing that just baffles my mind. It's they've taken it too far. I mean, to me, if they would have done what Roberts wanted to do in Dobbs v. Jackson, which is keep Roe in place but just push it back to 15 weeks, I still think that would have been too far, because I don't think 15 weeks is enough, and you have to have circumstances where you can save yourself, you can save your life, you can save your health, but this is just bananas and bonkers, and I just don't understand what the hell they were thinking.
They purely thought, at least I say they in general sense, but Trump too, specifically, and MAGA, and the right wingers. All these years, they've been trying to get rid of Roe v. Wade. I mean,
right.
ever since it got passed. And it was one of those things, the dog catching the tailpipe type of thing. But they finally did it. They finally caught the tailpipe, and now they're like, okay, I guess we got to go all in. I don't know. It's just. They really screwed themselves, though. They really did.
I mean, it was a Pyrrhic victory for them, and unfortunately, in the case, it was a Pyrrhic victory that's going to end up harming a crap ton of people before we can get this right. And the only way that we get this right, if we have a shot at getting this right, is not just to make sure that Vice President Harris wins and becomes our next president, but to make sure that we win all of the important Senate races. Because if the Senate goes down, I mean, it's very well possible that the Democrats could retake the House, win the retain the presidency, and then still lose the Senate, which is going to suck. But it's with what we're seeing out of Iowa, the Iowa polling that came out today, that made it look like that made it potentially seem like, oh, there might be a chance to flip another state. Maybe that's good. Maybe that means that the young folks, the was it Gen Y or Gen Alpha? I don't know which ones are coming of age at this point of the the 18 to 20-year-olds, those people who didn't vote last time, who are pissed off about what happened in the election. Maybe those people are coming in and are coming in under the radar because pollsters don't poll people who who didn't vote the last election. So that's a large segment of the population who is going unpolled, which could swing things different ways. I think in 2020, perhaps in 2020, those younger folks may have swung more towards Trump, even though it didn't help him win because he lost. But I think this time, because we now are in the post-Roe world, that it will bring people out to vote, hopefully, and hopefully people will be motivated to get off their butts and cast their ballot. Now, what I think is good. Another thing I think is good is here we have two cis white guys sitting here talking about it. Our most important issue is the rights of people to obtain an abortion. I'll never have an abortion. You'll never have an abortion. But, to us, both of us, this is the most important issue and the most driving issue because it's about body autonomy. It's about dignity. It's about respect for human life. They claim their beliefs are about respect for human life. And I just say bullshit on that because you don't respect human life by forcing people to risk death. It's just impossible.
Yeah, and they constantly they live in this fantasy world. Like I've been hearing this since the 80s about how this is killing babies. They're killing the babies. Abortion is killing babies. And even then, when I was, I wasn't. I was like 19, 20 years old. It's not like I wasn't. I had some knowledge of biology, and I knew that these were cells. These were clumps of cells, and these were zygotes. These weren't babies, but they always wanted to put that image out there.
Right.
That this was baby killing, even way before now when Trump talks about baby killing in the 9th month. But they're saying that even from conception, these are babies,
Right.
And they just, I just always seemed so disingenuous to me that they would talk that way, that it was always about promoting their right-wing agenda, especially when Reagan got elected. And I used to go to church. I used to go to Christian, Baptist church, Protestant church, And as soon as Reagan got elected, my church, they started bringing out into the main chapel during Sunday school, Sunday services, they would show films about abortion and anti-abortion films. And the imagery was that these were babies, like little toddlers, like 9 months old or whatever, that were being, and they would pile them up. They would use like dolls, baby dolls, and pile them up for this imagery of all these babies that were being murdered every year, And that pretty much, I said, I'm out. I pretty much just left the church. I was like, I don't need this shit. I don't need your propaganda. I don't need your right-wing, bullshit. And I left, man. That was in 1980, 81, somewhere in there.
That probably would have been the exact same way if my synagogue would have been like that. I mean, I went to Hebrew day school from 1st to 8th grade. We continued going to synagogue a little bit longer. But then again, the Jewish belief on abortion is so much different than the Christian belief on abortion. It's bizarre. It's like sometimes in nerd culture, you call, like when they retroactively change the continuity, it's called retconning something. So it's like, how is it that Jewish law considers the embryo to be mere water, and how come it considers the fetus to have some value but not the same value as the person who is pregnant with that fetus? But yet all of a sudden Christianity comes along and goes, nope, we're changing that. God was wrong. We're changing the rules. It's bizarre. But I don't know, if there is a person out there who doesn't want to have an abortion, fine. If you feel that it's worth the risk to not treat your miscarriage until the fetal heartbeat is gone, and you want to make that decision for you, fine. But don't force that thing on any other people. And again, let's not forget that in 2016, in the 2016 election, that Donald Trump said clearly that there should be some punishment for the woman as well. So he's not done. He's not done with abortion restrictions, and to think otherwise is false. Now, you also have the situation where they want to go after the Miffy Prestone with the Comstock Act. I mean, they could technically, if they control the FDA, they could just rescind the FDA approval. But they want to try using the Comstock Act. Well, I'm like, if Dobbs v. Jackson says that you can't regulate abortion at the national level because abortion's not written in the Constitution, again, a terrible ruling, but we've discussed that on the show many times. But if you can't regulate abortion and protect abortion rights via the federal government, because it's not a power that the federal government has, you can't use the Comstock Act to do it either. You can't have your cake and eat it too. I mean, of course, right. I mean, there's nothing to stop the Supreme Court from being hypocrites, and hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. But
right.
It is what it is.
They make sure all the time. It's just like with back when Scalia was alive, and one of his gun decisions, he kind of made that a bunch of stuff out of whole cloth of like saying what the Constitution,
with
Second
Heller?
Amendment would have meant, and he just made stuff up.
Was that a DC versus Heller?
Yeah, I think it was a Heller decision.
Yeah, I mean, but even in that decision though, Scalia did specifically state that there is an authority to do regulation on guns. So that's why Obama was smart when Heller came out, because Obama was like, yeah, okay, you just said that there is the authority there to do some regulation on guns. So good, we at least agree on that.
Yeah.
But I used to call, because just kind of similar looks or whatever, and kind of similar judicial attitudes, I used to call Alito like Scalia light, or Scalito, or basically just because he was just a wannabe. But he really is just a wannabe, because say what you want about his rulings, and of course clearly I disagreed with Scalia's political standings, but at least his rulings made some sort of logical sense, even in the twisted logic. You could see where he drew the lines. You could see that he actually understood what the document said and was extrapolating, I mean, in ways that I disagree with, rulings. But at least you could say, okay, he's a bright guy. He might be an evil genius, but he's a genius nonetheless. Whereas Alito is a dumbass, and I have no idea how he ever passed the bar.
Yeah, makes you shake your head. But and speaking of important reasons about this election, and really all elections are important about Supreme Court picks. That's always an important issue, and
right.
If Kamala Harris or whoever wins, they're saying there could be 3 more picks coming up. We might have some people dying or retiring or whatever, and I would much rather have Kamala Harris having those picks than a Trump.
Right. Plus, if you do manage to retain the Senate and take the House back, you just, since the Republicans already pulled the trigger on the nuclear option, all you got to do at that point is, use the nuclear option on expanding the Senate, expand the Supreme Court, and right. Boom, there you go. You now have more seats that the sitting president can fill above and beyond what happens with. I think people are suggesting maybe Justice Thomas might be one of the ones to go, and if you could replace Thomas with somebody who on the left, I mean, that would be an amazing shift. And then you just got to get one more, and one more of the. I think the consensus is 2. Like, I was worried in 2016 about 3, and unfortunately, I turned out to be right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's that. But the Supreme Court has talking about rulings that come out of nowhere. The immunity ruling, where I know they said that it's not total immunity. There's if it's not related to his job, then whatever. But even if it's not related to his job, they basically said that anything communicated with anywhere within the executive branch is something that's going to be, it's something that's privileged. You can't subpoena it. So if you can't subpoena any communications from within the executive branch, regardless of its official business or not, then he basically has, in effect, de facto full immunity for the job. And we don't want Captain Bonesters, Orange MAGA von Schitz's pants. We can't afford to have Donald Trump sitting there with no immunity. People question, I listened to one conservative talk show today in the morning, and they were like, when did he act like, thank you, Fancy, for becoming a Danimal, appreciate you. When did Trump act like a fascist dictator, or that they don't see it? I'm like, regardless of if you don't see it last time, I mean, there were clear examples, wanting to use the police to move protesters out so he could take a picture with an upside down Bible in front of a church. He wanted to have a military parade in his honor. Those are the things that fascist dictators do. But Donald Trump at the time didn't have a ruling that basically said he's completely immune in all his communications. Now he can communicate all he wants with anybody in his administration, and nobody can subpoena it. So that's dangerous, and a dangerous thing to put into the hands of the tiny little hands of Donald Trump. And before we go on, caller on Blog Talk Radio, because I have a video guest, he won't be able to hear you because I don't have that. I don't know how to set that up really that well. So if you want to ask some questions, just do it in the chat at the moment, because we're not really taking calls. I'm just using Blog Talk Radio tonight as kind of the soundboard. So I mean, I'm assuming, John, you didn't hear the intro music, right? When I was during the break, like you didn't.
You know what? I don't know, because I had my AirPods in, and I was trying to figure that out.
Right.
And then, what I didn't realize is, and I have this it's like noise canceling. The audio from the phone, because I'm doing this from the phone, was coming out. Okay. And I don't really remember if I could hear the music or not, because I was trying to get the AirPods to work, and then they actually linked up with my iPad instead of my phone, and so that wouldn't work as far as being able to talk and use those.
DB Golding on the Twitch chat goes, you can't have any president with total immunity. I mean, we don't want presidents with total immunity. I mean, the ruling sucked, but I think it is the consensus among the people who are supporting Vice President Harris that she's not going to abuse the power that the Supreme Court gave her. Just like so far, Joe Biden hasn't abused the power that the Supreme Court has given him. But we know that Donald Trump will absolutely abuse the power that the Supreme Court gave him, and it will be a very dangerous place, very dangerous situation to have that person who's so unhinged. And I mean, when you're sitting there simulating oral sex on a microphone in the middle of a rally, I mean, you've gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, that's crazy. And these things, one after the other, these last few days, with the whole Puerto Rican comments at the Nazi rally, right? And then this with the microphone. It's bizarre. It is so bizarre. And can you imagine if Kamala Harris did something like that, or Joe Biden had done something like that? I mean, they would have ran those people. They would run them out of town. I mean, they'd be done. They'd be absolutely done.
That's because
but Trump gets away with it.
Democrats are expected to be perfect, and any little flaw, any small disagreement is blown up into a huge problem, especially by the more and more left you get. But then again, and then Donald Trump does something, and people are like, oh, that's just Trump being Trump. I wish people would hold Republicans, especially Donald Trump, to the same standards that they hold Democrats to.
Yeah, it's just. But why does it happen? I mean, because this comes from the media, the mainstream media. I mean, they control that. Right. I mean, I can remember when Howard Dean was ran out of town because he got a little too exuberant with his. When he didn't realize how loud the microphone was. That was the thing. That was the issue there. He didn't realize his microphone was
was that loud, I guess, and would pick up the "yeah" that much, and he was excited.
Yeah,
And
he was.
and I mean, I didn't take an issue with it. I was like, oh, good, he's excited. Maybe we needed an excited candidate. It's someone who's excited, who's a candidate about stuff. But nope, he got run out of town because he said, yeah, Al Franken gets run out of town because of a skit that he did where he never even touched anybody, and the person was probably in on it. But a picture came out with him like doing this,
Right.
air boob grabs or whatever, and that was taken to be, oh, well, now he can't be a senator anymore. And that was us shooting ourselves in the foot. That was Gillibrand from New York who did that. And Gillibrand tried to do the same thing to Joe Biden about one of Joe Biden's writings about the ability of people to. He was pushing for more either tax credits, I think, for people to be able to send their kids to daycare. So because you needed to be able to have working families. Some working families need to be able to afford daycare, and for some reason, Kristen Gillibrand had this huge issue with what he said, when in reality, Joe Biden was worded it in the most woke way possible before woke was even a thing, because he made the entire argument gender neutral. Why? Because he knew what it was like to be a widowed parent of children who had to take care of his kids, and he knew that other people would be going through even more difficult times with that. So he didn't make it gendered. He made it apply to everybody, and we need more of that.
Yeah, Gillibrand, she really pissed me off.
Oh wait, Dean Baker, I think he was filleting a corn dog. That was today. So today, I haven't seen the corn dog bit yet. That was today. I think over the weekend there was a broken microphone that Donald Trump was trying to fillet. Now maybe Donald Trump kind of misunderstood when maybe his thing wasn't working either when he was with Stormy, and she said, well, maybe this will help. I don't know. Maybe he thought that going down on the microphone would cause the microphone to turn on as well. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I guess he was complaining it was too low. Maybe he thought it would rise up or something.
Maybe, yes.
I don't know.
But
yeah. You know what?
You don't have to just go to Hal's to get humor. You can get humor from Liberal Dan or Trucker John. Of course, always go to Hal because Hal's great. But we're also two funny lads as well.
Hopefully my sound is okay. I know some people say I was echoing, but I don't know.
It's a little. I think the longer you talk, it kind of grows on itself. So when there's a break and then you start again, it's good, and then it starts echoing again a little bit as you get longer. It's fine though. I think everybody can understand you. It's not a big deal. So I'm not worried about it.
I was thinking about moving the camera closer. Maybe the mic would be closer, but then you got to see this close. So I don't know.
Oh come on, John, you're a handsome devil. But one of the other things that is back to the two issues that people are trying to make. I mean, Donald Trump ended today making immigration his number one thing to close out the election with, and it's bizarre that he chose that for two reasons. The one reason, everybody knows that he scuttled the Senate bill that was written by the Republican from Oklahoma that was negotiated, I guess, by Harris, but yet he did not want to have any solutions to passed before he became president, because then Biden gets the credit. He didn't want that. So he doesn't want solutions, because solutions at this point in time hurt his political career.
Right.
But the other thing, Donald Trump and other Republicans have said, oh, Joe Biden doesn't need a border bill. He can just do executive orders. Well, if he could do executive orders, Trump could have done executive orders. Where was he with his executive orders over 4 years fixing the problem? Donald Trump doesn't want to fix the problem at all. He wants to continuously have the problem. Maybe he learned his mistake. That's a stretch that he might learn something. But maybe his handlers learned their mistake by getting Roe overturned, and now it's biting them in the ass. So maybe Donald Trump is like, well, I want to be able to make immigration an issue, but I don't want it to actually be solved, because if it's solved, then it's going to harm us. Just like they solved that abortion was legal, and now it's bitten them in the ass too. So thank you, Fred, for the $5 super chat. Appreciate you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That he wants the issues. He puts himself over everything. It's not just party over America. It's Donald Trump over America, or over democracy. It's all about him. And so if he thinks he can run on immigration and keeping that problem, he's going to do it. Because really, that's all he talks about over and over and over again for the 2 years of this campaign. It's been this invasion at the border, invasion. It's always this invasion, and he's a broken record on that. He just keeps saying it over and over.
Yeah.
I guess that's his little trick. He thinks that's his little Jedi mind trick or something.
Well, that's what he does with everything. I have the best blank. Nobody has better blanks. I don't understand why people don't just laugh him off the stage at this point when he starts doing that. Like, you can't have the best everything. There's never been blank like before, like when I had blank. Just fill in the blanks for whatever it is, and there you go. It's kindergarten logic. It's the logic of a low information, small-minded, petty person who is more worried about crowd sizes than he is about actually bringing solutions to the table.
They're a cult. If you ever wonder if that stuff is real, like being in a cult and how people can get sucked into something and just go to a Trump rally. I was there at the one here in Vegas that he had, the one a few months ago, and I was surrounded by maggots.
Right.
And you could just see that they just took everything he said. They were just this rapt attention, and they were just it was almost like this kind of savior complex or something. I mean, they were just soaking in and every single word that he said. And it was all the same bullshit. That's the one. I think that's the one where he was talking about the boat and the shark. Well, I guess he said that a few times, but
right.
But I know he did it at that one. I think that might have been the first time. Was at the Vegas one, and that was back in a few months ago, right?
Right.
But I was surrounded by him, and I started making little comments because I just couldn't help myself. And then they turned on me. It was like you see something in a movie where, the cult. They're just like these kind of they were like rabid people, and they were so offended that I dared to say something about their savior, know? I mean, it's just so weird. It was just the brainwashing or something. It's amazing. It's amazing to see it. And
is it brainwashing if they don't have brains?
Well, yeah, that's kind of that's the question. But look, they were. I mean, if you saw these people, there was a few of them that looked pretty crazy. But there was a lady in front of me. She had a stroller with a little baby in the stroller, and she had another little kid with her. She just looked like a normal housewife, or just a normal person with, a mom. She was like in her 30s or something. And she got really offended at me because I was saying about how, because I started saying Trump's a rapist, and which probably wasn't real smart. I was surrounded. And she turned around at me and started saying like you're disgusting, don't say that. And I go, he's the one that's disgusting up there, And then people started closing in on me, and they were like yelling at me, like you're a fool, and all this stuff. And so I just ended up leaving because I could tell it was getting kind of hairy. But it was just a weird thing to see. Then there was another lady. She's like probably in her 70s or something, or whatever she was. But she was an older lady, and she just got in my face and started yelling about how Joe Biden, she was talking about Afghanistan or something, about how he got our soldiers killed and our people killed and all this kind of stuff. But she was yelling and screaming and just like veins coming out of her neck or whatever. I mean, it was kind of amazing. And if I looked at her, I just thought she's just like a grandma. She's just like this sweet little grandma. But all of a sudden she just turned and got in my face and was just screaming and yelling, and it's just because I wasn't going along with the guy up there on the podium. I wasn't going along with his bullshit,
Right.
And so that was just like the ultimate sin that I was committing or something. It was like it was just amazing to see how these people just changed, because I was standing there in that group for 10, 15 minutes, and everyone looked okay. They looked just normal people, But then as soon as I made some comments, man, it was like, wow.
Right.
crazy.
Chris in the chat's like, Trump got those soldiers killed. Exactly. Trump's the one that set the date. Trump's the one that basically left Biden holding the bag while he flew off. But one of the other things I've seen, like, there's one user, I think it was Walter Masterson or whatever, Matheson. I know he's on TikTok. I don't know if he has a YouTube channel, but he often mocks the guy who does the Date Right Stuff app. One of the ones who I guess is not qualified for anything, but I think is also involved in Project 2025, who does snarky little things like, where he's eating dinner and he's like, so if I do this, liberals do this, blah, blah, blah. Got it. And then he takes a bite of food, and then this guy has started mocking him very well. He went to a Trump rally, and it was great because he started talking. He found a guy who was like a businessman who's selling T-shirts, and all of a sudden, like, he starts, yeah, but you're now going to have to pay tariffs on what you import from the T-shirts that you buy from China, and that's going to mean that people who buy your shirts are probably going to pay more money. And the guy was not getting it until somebody came along and was like, look, if you buy a shirt for $10, or if I'm selling you shirts for $10 and you're flipping them for 20, if I raise my price to 15, are you going to keep the price for him for 20? I think I was like, no, I'm going to raise my price. And he taps Walter Masterson on the shoulder and is like, that's how tariffs work, and he walks away. And it was like the total mic drop moment, and the Trump supporter was, all garbed in make MAGA gear and everything, and he was just like, oh. It's like the realization hit him that Donald Trump is wrong about tariffs. Because, again, the other thing that people talk about, that they want to talk about, immigration and the economy, or the border and the economy, well, Trump sucks at the economy. Trump's tariffs, almost killed U.S. farmers, not literally, but their businesses. And then we had to come in afterwards and give them a whole bunch of stimulus money to be able to survive his horrible policies. And now he wants to put that on steroids and charge a 200% tariff on what now? Like, if you think inflation is bad now, wait till that happens. And business owners have basically said there's no way that we'll be able to absorb that cost. We will have to pass on that price to the consumers. But the MAGA folks just don't get it. They're going to say, it's the whole Laffer curve thing back then. I mean, I remember back when Bush was running for president, in 2000, and these conservatives would be like, don't you know that if you cut taxes, you increase revenue? And I was like, okay, so I'm talking to one of them, like, okay, so if the tax rate is 5% and I cut the tax rate to 0%, have I increased revenue? No. Because you don't understand the concepts, you're just regurgitating what you're being told. Same thing with the tariffs. They're just regurgitating what they're being told as it pertains to, what Trump believes and how Trump believes tariffs works, and they don't care about anything else. So you have to basically, this guy got lucky finding one who would actually listen to him, but they're just going to repeat the same BS because Donald Trump said so. That's, again, it's a cult. So the people, if you're not cultish, leave. And that's the thing. I saw one video where people were like debating, and she was, the MAGA woman was like, you think people who are Trump supporters are a cult? And he was like, yep. Criticize him then. If you're not a cult, give him criticism. And she wouldn't do it. Why? Because it's a freaking cult.
Yeah. Yeah, this is done in their programming, to criticize their leader.
Right.
And, but the, what was I going to say? Something about the cult. I forget now. I was going to say something about the cult, but I forget now.
Yeah, it's just one, again, there's so many issues that could be talked about with this election. And yeah, they're the big ones. You have abortion, you have the economy, you have immigration, but even just the simple ones, like just he's a bigot, he's an anti-Semite, he's a clear racist, and these conservatives don't understand that just because he moved the embassy to Jerusalem, or just because Israelis think that life for Israelis will be better under Trump, that doesn't mean he's pro-Jewish. some of the most anti-Semitic people are Zionists, or people who support Israel. Like, and the reason they're Zionists, Richard Spencer, the Nazi that got punched, is pro-Israeli existence. Why? A, it means that if Israel exists and is a full one state in that whole area, it means Israel is harming the Palestinians and other Arab folks over there, and that he likes that because that's what Richard Spencer wants to see, Jews and Arabs fighting each other. And B, he hopes that you have a Jewish state over there where he can ship all the Jews to, so he in America can get rid of all the Jews, and then, well, guess what? Then he can make America Gilead. That's why they support Israel. That's why these fools, and also there's the prophecy of, when the end times come, you have to have a whole bunch of Jews living in Israel so they can die first. With friends like that, who needs an enemy? But even then, you had Donald Trump standing in front of a conference by Jewish people on anti-Semitism, and he stands in front of the conference and says, if I lose, you have to blame the Jews. Like, how can you not see that that's anti-Semitic? But his daughter converted to Judaism, his son-in-law and grandkids are Jewish. So that doesn't mean, like, if a racist person, if their child married a black person, that's not going to suddenly make the racist person not be racist. That person's not going to be happy with the fact that their daughter, they might pretend to tolerate it for the sake of family getting together, but it doesn't mean Donald Trump is any less of a schmuck. Like,
right. Yeah, I'm pretty confident, though. I think by and large, the Jewish community in America knows that Trump is not their friend. You know what I mean? I don't think there's going to be a lot of Jewish folks voting for Trump, and even Muslims. Like, even though we have this, like Michigan, and we're afraid that the Muslims are going to vote because they don't like the way Biden's been handling Gaza and all that stuff. But I think most Muslims realize that they have a better chance, at least for their folks back in Palestine, to have a two-state solution under a Democrat than they do under any Republican, really, especially Trump.
Right.
So I think
some of the Netanyahu types don't want a two-state solution. They only want a single-state solution where Israel controls the entire thing. So that's the problem there. I mean, you are going to have some Jews who are going to, vote because they wrongly think that Donald Trump is better for Israel, and they wrongly think that Donald Trump somehow is pro-Jewish people. I mean, because mostly those folks are probably just fiscal conservatives who think that their money situation is going to get better under Trump. Again, they're wrong about that too, but that's the few Jews that you'll see voting for Trump. The rest of us, we know we don't vote for authoritarian wannabe dictator on day ones. We don't. That's not what we do. Those types of ideas terrify the ever-living crap out of us, and for good reason.
Right.
We have generational trauma based off of the Holocaust. We have, there are people who, one of my teachers was when I was in second grade. She, Mrs. Radin, she was a Holocaust survivor. She had to leave the room every time we did a presentation on the Holocaust because she couldn't bear to watch because she saw enough, and who could blame her? But there are so many people in this country who don't even know that the Holocaust happened, or don't believe it was as bad as it's reported it is. Like, we have failed as a country educating people on various issues, but especially about the Holocaust. And what Donald Trump showed at that anti-Semitism conference is that the tale as old as time is that Jews get to be used as a scapegoat. And I don't want an anti-Semite in the White House. I don't want a racist or a bigot at the White House. People say, oh, it was just a comedian saying the comments about Puerto Rico. Yeah, but his campaign vetted the comments and allowed them. Yeah. And I think they cut a C-word joke,
right.
See you next Tuesday, which means they did read the jokes. And then I said, oh, well, there you go. Well, this is too far, but you could still call Puerto Ricans all sorts of names. And, well, apparently I didn't know that Allentown and Reading, Pennsylvania had such large Puerto Rican communities, but if that's what cost Trump Pennsylvania and ultimately the election, I'm gonna be like, thank you, Tony Hinchcliffe, for being a bigot, because
Right.
you just helped Vice President Harris win. I mean, if that's what caused it to happen, that'll be amazing. But there's tons of bigots. I mean, Donald Trump doubled down on his support of Mark Robinson in North Carolina, and I think it's clear that Mark Robinson's not going to win the governor's race. I think you're going to have a Democratic governor of North Carolina. Does that translate to a Vice President Harris win as well? I don't know. But it makes it much more likely, especially because Donald Trump, gave his full-throated support to the so-called black Nazi who liked to go look at, porn sites and be racist on them. So,
yeah, all this stuff keeps adding up, and back to the Puerto Rican thing, the joke. Like, if Trump was any kind of a man, even if he didn't know that joke was in there, he could have said, "Hey, look, that was horrible what he said, and I don't condone what he said." But instead, he goes, "I don't know the guy. I didn't even know it. I don't know anything about it." He's always like, "I don't know. I didn't even know." But he can't even take. He's not even a man. He's not. He's just a. He's just a horrible person. And that really shows it right there. When he can't even be man enough to say, "Hey, look, that was a horrible joke, and I wish that he hadn't said it, or I wish it hadn't been. Wish I would have caught it, or whatever." But instead, he just wants to always, act like he doesn't see anything or know anything about that kind of stuff. It just gets tiresome, his bullshit.
Well, as it was alleged, he learned from Roy Cohn, basically never apologize for anything. Never apologize, never admit you're wrong, always shift the blame to somebody else, and so you'll never see an apology from Donald Trump. It'll never happen, because he will always find somebody else who is to blame. It's never his fault. He never did anything wrong, and that same thing applies to his supporters. If Trump says something terrible, he was either joking, or he didn't mean it, or he didn't understand what it meant, or some other excuse as to why his deplorable ass did his deplorable things. So,
man, that Roy Cohn, I guess he must have been a hell of a teacher, because that stuff stuck for Trump.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's been 40 years or whatever.
It was ingrained into his head. Enough.
Yeah.
I guess if you repeat something enough times, people will believe it, and that's why Donald Trump is as popular as he is, because he repeats the same thing over and over again, and people believe it.
There's salesman trick.
Right.
I was a car salesman for a little while, just for like a year, and they were teaching us that kind of stuff, just to have a script basically, and to say certain words and say certain things, and I would use some of those, and I actually got some sales, and I was like, whoa, this shit works, man. And so I think shit like that has worked for Trump over the years, and so that's all he knows. The same way with the thing, like with the tariffs and stuff. All he knows that with certain people in his cult there, all he has to do is sound like he knows what he's talking about, and say it fast and without any hesitation, and it'll sound like he knows what he's talking about, and they'll just lap it up. It's just like salesman tricks,
Right.
Just baffle them with bullshit. That's what you do.
And people talk about how he was we need a businessman. No, he wasn't a good businessman. He was a con artist. He always tries to come up with the next con, the next scam, the next thing to get money on based off of, his name, because his name became popular because of who he was, and then he was able to flip, Trump steaks, Trump bow ties, Trump this, Trump casinos. And people say, well, he's a terrible businessman because he bankrupted a casino. How do you bankrupt a casino? I'll tell you exactly how you bankrupt a casino. You funnel all of the money out of it and siphon all the money out till it can't survive anymore, and then you declare bankruptcy, and then you don't have to pay off your creditors.
And apparently that's what he did in Puerto Rico. He bought a golf club there, a golf course in Puerto Rico, and he just sucked it dry for hundreds of millions of dollars, and then he bankrupted it and left.
Yep, I mean,
and that's why people were saying that's why when Hurricane Maria came through and wiped out Puerto Rico, because they were suing him to get some money back, Puerto Rico or somewhere in Puerto Rico, and and he holds grudges. You know how Trump holds grudges.
Yep.
So as he's the president of the United States, but he's so petty that he's going to hold that against them because they dared to sue him because he ripped them off for millions of dollars.
Right.
And then he withheld FEMA funds and funds for that hurricane relief for months and months and months. He held it up.
But he did throw he did do a Kobe and throw the paper towels.
Yeah. Yeah, good thing for that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's so helpful. But yeah, I mean, it only just shows. It doesn't show he's a good. It just shows he's a corrupt businessman, though. He's willing. I mean, and he was with his casinos. He even before he sucked all the money out of it to declared bankruptcy with it, so that all the creditors wouldn't have to be paid, and he could just still walk away with a bunch of money scot-free. I mean, he was doing that before the business shut down. He was basically saying, okay, I'll agree to this work being done, and then for this price, they do the price, and he goes, okay, well, I'm only gonna pay you 30% less because I feel that that's what it's worth. And if you don't like it, you can sue me, and it's going to cost you more money to sue me than to just lose more money than you'll get back if you win the case and you actually pay me back, which it's terrible. And there are businesses who suffered because of it. Trump does not support small businesses. He harms small businesses. Any benefit that anybody got in their business during the Trump presidency is a lucky mistake, because he doesn't give a crap about other people. He more gave a crap about trying to make sure that he would fly one of our U.S. Military planes and land in an airbase in Scotland that was not suited to handle such an aircraft, simply because he wanted the military to stay at his Scottish resort and not any other place that might have been more well suited, because they all stayed at Mar-a-Lago, which means the federal government had to pay for the rooms for all the Secret Service and everybody else. And every time they stayed at another thing, you have to pay money into the Trump organization. So who cares if he didn't take a salary as president, because he was making money hand over fist other ways. Doesn't even include the violation of the Emoluments Clause when foreign governments would stay at the Trump, old post office hotel. Right. But nobody wants to see that. Yeah, shyster, snake oil salesman. Yeah. He again, someone said in the chat, a sucker born every minute, attributed to P.T. Barnum. And
that's why I think tomorrow. I really do think tomorrow is going to be a great day for Democrats and for Kamala Harris. I know 2016 always creeps up, but so many people are I think we're just exhausted by Trump. We're sick of his shit. And we see the Kamala Harris rallies, and it's just so joyful and exuberant. And I don't know. I think it's going to be a good day tomorrow. But I'm anxious. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm anxious. I'm kind of sitting here on pins and needles, but man,
I mean, all of the stuff that we've talked about tonight has actually helped make me feel better about things, simply because of the fact that there's just so much out there. That how can so many people be so wrong about it? But then again, I try to be cautiously optimistic, because you never know. I didn't think he'd be able to pull off the victory in 2016 either, and he did. So
yeah,
it's just majorly frustrating. And I was going to say something, and I completely lost my train of thought. So,
but I do think he's going to take. I think he's going to take Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I mean, not he. I think Harris is going to take.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, whoa.
Yeah. And that's a big deal. If Kamala wins Pennsylvania, I think it's over, right? That's just coming down to that being sort of the linchpin there, or whatever.
Yeah, I think Trump needs. I think he needs one of the three of the Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and all of the Sun Belt. Like, he needs all of the rest. And who knows if Georgia's going to come out? Who knows what Florida's going to do? Again, we've talked about that a little bit earlier with the Florida abortion amendment, where the people get to choose whether or not they want to, protect the rights of abortions under state law. And so that might be able to be enough to bring out enough people who might not have thought that this is a winnable thing, because they want to make sure that this gets voted on, and this passes, and then they're like, oh, well, might as well vote for Harris as well. People who otherwise might not have voted. People like my friend Yen Bailey, who I went to college with. She's running in the 2nd district, I think, over in Tallahassee. It's a conservative district, but she's running hard over there. She's and hopefully, maybe she could get propelled into the House simply because, the people come out to vote for abortion rights, and then she gets to ride those coattails. Maybe Harris gets to ride those coattails as well statewide. I don't know. I'm not.
And maybe Rick Scott.
Yeah.
I forget who the person running against him is, but I was listening to someone this morning. I forget who it was, but apparently Rick Scott, they late in the campaign, just the other day, they dumped a whole bunch of more money into advertising, like $10 million or something. And they were saying he wouldn't do that unless he was either the polling he saw came out that he's either losing or they're tied.
And that's big, because if you're a safe member of a House or a Senate seat, if you're safe and you raise a bunch of funds, normally you then use those funds to help other candidates across the country, currying favors with them. But if you have to spend your campaign money defending your seat, if the Republican Party and the Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee has to spend their money in Florida defending the Florida seat, that's less money, less ability, less time, less effort that they have to put towards the other races, which makes it easier for Sherrod Brown. It makes it easier for John Tester. It makes it easier for everybody else who's running for the Senate where it's close.
Yeah, I think Colin Allred in Texas, I think he's got a good shot.
It's possible.
Cruz out of there.
It's possible. It's always like that's the white whale. Like if Texas falls, and becomes a blue state, it's then over for the Republican Party, because if there's no way they get it back. I mean, it's just done. But I mean, I don't believe I'm not going to hold my breath for it. But it will be going really bad for Donald Trump if Ted Cruz loses. So
I think Texas is going to go blue, but not now. If Allred wins, I think that might make him purple.
Right.
They still have another senator that would be
true
red, and then they still have Abbott as their governor. Stuff like that. This might be the first step into going blue.
But one thing you really need to do is you really need to crack down on when as things start shifting more blue, you need to have a Supreme Court that's going to come in and basically not rule like they've done with gerrymandering. I mean, they did make the right decision and make Louisiana. They created a second majority black seat in Louisiana, so it's possible that Democrats could pick up a seat in the state of Louisiana, which would be amazing. But you have so many state House and state Senate districts that are so gerrymandered that the Republicans retain control with minority rule. Like Whitmer, I think Whitmer's dealing with a Republican legislature. I think Wisconsin is also dealing with the same sort of thing. I think Pennsylvania also has the same sort of thing, where you have the Democratic governors, because statewide the Democrats win, but the lines are drawn so shitty that it's almost impossible to win because they've gerrymandered it so terribly, and that's something that needs to be fixed. My fix for it would be elimination of congressional districts and just voting slates of candidates per state, and that way you don't have to worry about borders. You just elect the slates. But the Republicans will never allow that. They'll never go for that. Why? Because it means they would lose power. So
they don't want anything that's gonna, just like they don't want high turnouts in general. They know that the higher turnouts usually so good for them. So anything they can do to obstruct and reduce turnouts, and fix it. I think gerrymandering should be just outlawed or illegal, or maybe illegal, or just do like I think in California they've gone to where they have to set up these districts with like nonpartisan, like a board type of a thing. I think it's a little more fair, a fair system of setting the districts. Make it nonpartisan or
right.
But gerrymandering is pretty awful. the way they stack and load up those districts and split. And they either split or they stack, whatever. But it's crazy. It's crazy. So we got to get through it. But the main thing now is just let's get Kamala elected, and as many down ballot pieces as we can. I really think we're going to take the House, and I think we're going to keep the Senate.
Oh, it does. Oh, TV2 has corrected me. So is somebody else. TV2 said Michigan did go flip their entire legislature blue. So that's good. But that needs to be done in other areas as well. And it's harder to do because of gerrymandering. Really quick. If that's Brother Michael in the chat or waiting on hold, we currently have a guest that I'm chatting with that you probably can't hear. Because we're doing a video chat on YouTube. If you want to chat in the YouTube chat, you're more than welcome to do that, liberaldanradio.com. But I don't think we'll be taking phone calls today. If we do, it'll be much later. So, John Deff, Ohio has gerrymandering as an issue on the ballot, gives control to citizens, which is good because Ohio is terribly gerrymandered. When they had 16 House seats, it was 12. And like when Obama was winning Ohio, and it was still 12 Republicans and 4 Democrats. That's how they drew the districts. And then they lost a seat during this 2020 census, and then so they made it the same number of 12 seats for the Republicans and now 3 for the Democrats. So yeah, it's terrible. If that can pass in Ohio, that would be a huge step to fixing things. But again, I still think that slates of candidates would be a better option, simply because of the fact that you don't, if somebody wants to vote for a New Orleans slate that doesn't have boundaries, but they live in Shreveport, Louisiana, they should be able to do so. If that's the slate that holds their values the best, then you'd get a true because it's supposed to be, the House of Representatives is supposed to be representative of the people of each state. What better way to do it than by eliminating the borders of the districts and allowing the people to vote straight up? So,
does anybody in Congress ever talk about that? Or
I don't think so. I don't think I've heard it. That's kind of like a me thing. That's kind of a thing that I hope would take off because I think it would be better. Another thing that we should do. That I mean, this is not an election issue. This probably won't be done anytime soon. Is also increase the number of House seats. If we wanted to have each House district be the size of the smallest state population-wise, every Wyoming, so one Wyoming represents the population of a district, we would have to add about 100 seats to the House just to give accurate representation and equitable representation in the House based off of the population. Because right now, Wyoming has more representation than even the founders had thought that they should have. But in reality, I think Wyoming should have like 5 seats and then make each seat 100,000 voters, and then that is the metric that we go by giving seats. Would that make it a lot more politicians? Sure. Is that going to mean a lot more people that have to get paid as their elected officials? Maybe, but maybe we could work on a way of cutting their pay as well, because they don't need to be paid as much as they are. That being said, it would not only at that point make it more closer to what the founders believed, because it would be closer to that number that they have in the Constitution, and it would really, again, also expand the House to be the voice of the people, as long as you're not gerrymandering those districts. But then on the other hand, it also makes it so that the Senate seats do not skew the Electoral College as much as it does right now, which is a huge problem in and of itself, and which has allowed Republicans to win with the minority of the vote because of the undue power and undue weight that states like Wyoming and other small red states have. So,
and I know most of us in this chat and probably you and I, we always agree that, like, the Electoral College, I think we always agree, the Electoral College should be eliminated.
Right.
But then I always think, okay, what are the unseen circumstances of that, or whatever? I mean, is there something to be wary of if we did get rid of the Electoral College? And I'm trying to think of the
Well,
downside.
the typical argument by the conservatives, which is the wrong argument, is that you have flyover states, or that's what they say. They'll argue that the elections will only be decided by the big cities if you get rid of the electoral college, which is bullshit. Because if you already have flyover states, like we already have. Like if you go and look at the map of Donald Trump's campaign visits in 2016, and I posted it on a post on this on liberaldan.com, you will see that Trump didn't go in 2016 to a vast majority of small red states. Why? He didn't need to. It's already assumed that those states are going to be going for the Republicans. The only reason he would go to the blue states, like California and New York, is to fundraise. And everything else, he's going to the swing states. We have a situation where at any given time, 3 to 7 or maybe even 10 states decide who the president is. Everyone else is just, as I've said, meaningless, because my say doesn't count in Louisiana. Unless something drastic happens, Louisiana's going to go for Trump. And so my vote for Vice President Harris that I made early is not going to amount for a hill of beans. Same thing for Republicans in California or New York or whatever. Their electoral college votes are going to Kamala Harris and not Donald Trump, and they might be upset about that and whatever. But you if you eliminate the electoral college, you give more people the ability to have the say that they want to have, and as such, and we should. There is the 270 compact where basically everybody signs up and says, we're just going to give all of our votes are going to go to whoever wins the popular vote, regardless of how our state votes. But I don't know if that has a chance of passing either. I mean, it's close, but again, there's so many swing states where people don't want to pull that trigger on it. So.
Well, so the thing is that there's more Republican states now than there are Democratic states, as far as like governors and the governorships. So until the Democrats can get over 50%, that interstate compact thing isn't going to go into effect. So as soon as we do that, then maybe we'll have a chance. But we have to get more than 25. I think for governors, I think Democrats that have like 23 or 24 maybe across the country.
Something like that. And that's one of the problems with, one of the biggest issues with the Electoral College, and one of, Donald Trump was talking about at one of his rallies or whatever, that he and I think it was the Nazi rally in New York, that he and Speaker Johnson have some sort of secret plan or whatever. I haven't heard what that secret plan is. I don't know if you've heard anything been leaked about it, but my idea is that basically if they can do whatever it is that they can do to prevent anybody from getting the 270 approved in the in Congress on January 6, 2025. Yeah. Then it goes to the House of Representatives, and if the House of Representatives has to pick, then guess what? Donald Trump's president, because it doesn't matter who controls the House, because each state votes together, and then that counts as one vote towards who becomes president. So Wyoming has the exact same power. The one Wyoming congressperson has the same power as all of the Californian congresspeople to determine who the next president is going to be, and you're not going to see the small states go for Vice President Harris, and it's basically another way to have a coup. So
I've heard a little bit about that. I don't remember all the details. It seems like it's been kind of dismissed or something. So I don't know if that's something we shouldn't dismiss or not.
I mean, it has happened before, where it went to the House, and that's how they had to determine who the president was. But it hasn't happened for a very long time, and hopefully it won't happen this time or any time in the near future, until we can get rid of the damn thing. But it's always a concern, because you have a situation where you could get it 269 split, nobody wins, and then what happens? We're screwed. Because then it goes to the House. So, hey, Tamara Price, good to see you. Thank you for joining the chat. Let's see. What? Somebody asked me a question. I need to scroll and find it. See, Surrender Monkey says, Trucker John, will you protest if Trump cosplay as an Uber driver? It can't be healthy to have rapists advertise that industry. Wait, did Trump cosplay as an Uber driver? I know he cosplayed as a garbage collector.
Yeah, I didn't see that one, but if he does, I will be very mad.
Yeah, Fred Baer, Supreme Court's gutted the voting rights for everyone. Yep, by eliminating those parts of the Voting Rights Act, it basically, as I said in my video on this, that's on my channel, it's akin to basically saying John Roberts was the one who wrote that ruling, and he basically was like, well, we haven't had these racial issues that we had back then in a long time, so therefore we don't need this. And I'm like, well, New Orleans hasn't flooded from the Mississippi River since the levee was erected, so I guess that means we don't need the levee anymore either, right? That's the same kind of dumbass logic that was used to gut the Voting Rights Act. Here it is. Surrender Monkey, Liberal Dan, how bad do you expect the brain drain to affect America's ability to continue functioning with the future in mind if Trump wins? I don't even want to think about that. that's the problem. Like, I don't even want to think about that. But yeah, we're the big sucking sound that you'll hear if Donald Trump wins is probably a lot of people deciding that we don't want to live in the future of what would be Gilead. So who knows what would happen at that point? But I mean, unless they actually do start coming after the Jewish people, which I'm not putting past him, because, you know, he is the one that said that you could blame the Jews if he loses, but they might still blame it. But he'll still blame the Jews because he doesn't win certain states. Like, he didn't in 2016. He was crying and bitching and moaning because he thought he should have won California. Like, he was like, just throw away 3 million votes. Which is another thing that I wanted to bring up, which is the whole what time tomorrow will there be a time tomorrow that Donald Trump begs and demands that they stop counting the votes?
Oh, there will be.
I mean, because, I mean, it depends. Because if it turns out that Harris is in the lead, he's not going to ask them to stop. He's going to say, keep counting the votes, find me more votes, like he did in Georgia. But you know, he's already said the thing, I think today or yesterday, about the whole, we should have everything counted by tonight. We should know a winner by night. Why? There's no reason to. Let's do it slowly and accurately to make sure that we have the right person getting the job, and therefore, you know, if we have to, count it, slowly, that's fine. Like, I don't understand the concept, except for the fact that he wants to steal elections, so therefore he wants everything to be as murky and muddied up as possible. But the idea that we need a winner by tomorrow night is just silliness, because we need a winner by the time it has to be certified to Congress so that Congress can act on January 6th. Simple as that. But yeah, it's sometimes even the simple things are very hard for the poorly educated to understand.
Tomorrow, expect a total, kind of like a total meltdown from Trump. Yeah. I mean, you're going to see, if there's any type of lead that he has, then he's going to say, okay, that's it. He's going to declare himself winner.
Right.
And then if it goes the other way, he's going to say, okay, yeah, they're cheating. He's going to do all that stuff. He's going to, at one moment he'll say stop the count, and another moment he's going to say no, keep counting. He's going to be all over the place tomorrow. He's going to be a total mess, and I hope everyone sees it. I do want to see the meltdown followed by him fleeing the country, because I think if it's clear, if it's absolutely 100% clear that tomorrow night that he's losing, that it's done. If we see North Carolina go for Harris, if we see Pennsylvania go for Harris, if Florida looks promising or whatever, and it looks like that he's just done, I'm wondering when he flees the country to avoid the prison term that he would get in New York, because at that time, are his lackeys in the Supreme Court really going to have his back, or are they going to cut bait because they realize that
backed the wrong fish, so to speak.
He's going to keep his jet fueled up, probably ready to go.
Probably. I mean, he probably has been and will be, has been for a while now.
Can you get to Russia on one tank of gas or whatever?
It might depend on. I think you might have to go over the North Pole. If you start at New York, you might. If you go over the North Pole, you might be able to get there on one tank of gas. Especially on Trump Force One is a pretty big plane, and all the hot air that he spews out, it's got to help with the buoyancy and help keep it afloat, right?
Will Putin still take him though? Because what good is Trump to him now?
Right, I don't know. That's a good question. Will Putin will probably be like, no, I don't need you anymore. You suck. We find someone else to help us. No, if Donald Trump doesn't have the ability to help Putin get power, then Putin has no use for Trump. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I don't know where he could go. The Saudis want him. I mean, he's going to be useless wherever he goes. If he doesn't, the only thing he had going for him is that he could be president of the United States.
Right.
So I don't know who would even take him or want him. I guess they have to let him land. I don't know, but I don't think he's got the warm welcome that he thinks he's going to get.
I mean, maybe Netanyahu would want him. I don't know, but I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of Jewish people in Israel that or plenty of other people in the area who are going to be like, no, don't send him over here. I know because him and Netanyahu are buddy, but again, maybe him and Netanyahu are buddy only because Netanyahu sees, oh, this is somebody good that I can have if he becomes president. He'll back whatever I want to do with. He'll allow me to, quote, finish the job, as Trump says. So
right. Yeah, his only usefulness is as president, because as this being Donald Trump, the 6-time bankrupt businessman, he's no good. He's in debt to everybody. They were getting even before he became president. What was embarrassed because they were getting all this Russia money. They've been getting loans from Russia for years and years and years. That's all he's got. That's all what's kept him going financially, at least during those times. And now that he's not president, if he doesn't win, no one wants him.
Maybe he'll just fly to Epstein's Island and try and start business there. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, he knows the way, right?
It's probably already in their little autopilot.
Yeah.
Thing.
Push button. Go see Jeffrey. I want to go see Jeffrey's Island now. I don't care that I don't care that he killed himself, which he didn't. But go see Jeffrey's Island. Yeah, just absolutely bizarre.
It's going to be, tomorrow. It's going to be so interesting to see. But like I said, I'm confident Kamala's going to win. But the scary thing is the maggots, is the cult, and because as he gets more and more desperate, he's going to be calling out for more and more violence. That's what he does, and there are going to be some that are going to take that to heart, and I'm afraid that some people are going to get hurt. I
mean, the maggot hats that he started doing with the matching Proud Boy colors, I mean, that's frightening. I mean, and clearly the Proud Boys are viewing that as a call to them to be ready, just like they took stand back and stand by instead of stand down. As they took, because they said, tell him to stand down, stand back and stand by. Well, that's not standing down, that's standing by, which they took that as, yes, sir, we're standing by awaiting your orders. And then he said it's going to be wild on January 6th. So they're like, that's the orders. We need to go there for January 6th. So they are more than happy and more than willing to do harm and violence in his name. And I mean, I hope that, just like we think that maybe the world leaders who might like him now, like the Viktor Orbáns and the Vladimir Putins and the Benjamin Netanyahus, might think that he's their useful idiot at this point. Maybe if the American public comes out in such force that there's no way that he can make a reasonable argument that it was stolen from him, maybe some people will just be like, you know what, it's time to give up. It's time to find a new horse. Maybe. But it's going to take a solid drumming by the American electorate for that to happen. And I'm not holding my breath for that either, because there are people who are probably be more than happy to go down with the ship. We need to have a Vice President Harris victory to save the country, but I also fear the violence that's going to come on behalf of those people who are so entrenched in MAGA world that they can't imagine living in anything else but MAGA world. So,
and it only takes a few thousand or a few hundred or even just one or two people that could do some really awful things.
Well, I mean, look what happened in Oklahoma City in the bombing with what's it, Timothy McVeigh.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, you one or two people can do a lot of damage, and people that are well placed. I mean, these people are armed. These people do have weapons. It's just a matter. I mean, and they had them with them close by on January 6th last time. They just never moved to pull them into play. Fortunately,
I think there was one guy I think had a heart attack. I think he was going to get the guns, and he had a heart attack.
I hadn't heard that, but if that's true, karma is a bitch.
Yeah, I think so. I think he was going back to the truck. They found a bunch of guns and weapons, and I think some bombs in the truck. And the guy died.
Well, there is a guy recently that he was. I think there was a guy in California. No, I don't know if it's California. There's somebody who was going to a Trump rally, and he had like guns in the back of his truck, and people were thinking that he was like going to be potentially the third attempt on Trump's life, and in reality, it turned out that he wasn't. He was some guy who was like traveling up and down the coast to try and protect ballot boxes and stuff. Like, why is it your duty or your job to go protect and look after ballot boxes? When they say protect ballot boxes, what they mean is intimidate people and keep them from submitting their mail-in ballots in the drop boxes because they don't like them for whatever stupid reason. But like, he was on the radio show that I listen to in the morning sometimes, and it's absurd it's absurd that to think that he, with the facts that they had, that to think that he might have very well have been a third attempt, but with everything that I know at least about it. But it's also absurd for this dude who has no training on guns. Like, he admitted on the show they had no training on these guns, but he bought them, quote, for his protection. But you wouldn't need it for your protection if you weren't trying to do something that's not your job in the first place.
Probably the guy's probably a psycho. I don't know.
So I'm sure. No, I mean, absolutely he was.
Who thinks of this kind of shit? I don't think of that shit. Like, for me, I'm like, okay, I got my ballot. We got early voting. I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna drop it in the box. I don't ever think of like, I gotta protect the box, or I don't want people around, or whatever. I don't know. It just doesn't even enter my mind. I guess I take stuff for granted or something. But I'm just like, I don't know.
These people are all 6s and 7s. It's just nuts.
But I did go when I went to. I made a little video of it. I went down to my polling place, and I was really surprised that out in front they had all these signs for like Harris. I mean, well, there was a couple of signs for Harris, I think, but there were all these signs for Trump, Vance. Like, there must have been 24 signs, little campaign signs, right. And then there were some other local election, or I guess House representative stuff. It was mainly all. It was probably like 90% to 10% Republican to Democrat as far as the signs that were out in front of the polling place. And I didn't think they could do that, but I guess maybe there's a 100-foot limit or something. And I think they must have put it right at whatever, or 50 feet or 100 feet from the door. It must have been right at that limit, and right there they had like a whole string of these signs, campaign signs. I almost feel like just carrying them all down, but I didn't.
Typically, the rule is, at least it's the rule in Louisiana, is like you do have like a 500-foot rule from the polling place, but caveat being, if it's on private property, it doesn't count towards that limit. Like, I remember when I ran for the Kenner City Council, my polling place was like right down the street, and there was somebody who lived right across the street, and I walked to them. I was like, hey, can I use your lawn to put my sign on it so people can see my sign as they're going to go vote? And they're like, sure, no problem. So I put my sign up there, and they got to see my sign. Did it help me win? No, but the private property is the exemption. Like, for example, if I'm driving and I could drive right next to my polling place and have a Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or whatever bumper sticker on my car, that's not a violation, because usually in most areas a car is an extension of your house, so they can't stop you from having a bumper sticker on your vehicle. Now, you can't still wear your t-shirt in there, and you can't be campaigning within 500 yards or whatever. Unfortunately, you also can't give water in Georgia within a certain amount of feet from the line, which is stupid, which is, another attempt at voter suppression. That's the other thing I'm wondering, how much of that we're going to see tomorrow. How much Republican voter suppression is going to reveal its ugly head tomorrow during the day.
Yeah, how long are the lines going to be in some of these places?
Yeah. They've made it purposeful. It's good that we have the early voting so people can go vote early and avoid those long lines, but in places like Atlanta, you have voting areas that have several different precincts in one building, and it's all big city, so it's everybody coming in and voting in all these precincts and making big, huge, long lines. Meanwhile, in all the suburban areas that are more likely to be white, where the urban areas are more likely to be black, those suburban areas will have nice short lines and not have to worry about it. And then, if somebody's thirsty, they can't get a bottle of water, even from a family member, because that's now against the law. I would dare somebody to tell me, like, I would specifically, like, see, okay, you want to go wait in line? I'm going to bring you a bottle of water and challenge them to give me a ticket, because I would definitely want to challenge that one in court. That would be my activism, I guess. But you know.
And yeah, it's ridiculous. I think a lot of people, they see the ridiculousness of it, and I think Georgia is turning more and more blue. With Warnock and what's his name in there? John Ossoff. What's his name?
Ossoff, yeah.
Ossoff?
Yeah, John Ossoff, yeah.
And so, I think Georgia could be in play also. And I think people are tired of being treated like that,
Yeah. Well, I think it's great, though. I think it's great that the two people that helped us win the Senate in 2020 were a black senator and a Jewish senator. Like, standing together, supporting each other, which is what, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of strife between Jewish people and black people. And Jewish people and black people have the same enemies, and they've marched together in the past. And, but I've seen some people, sometimes in some places where people have crossed lines that they shouldn't. Jewish people and black people need to stand together. All people need to stand up against bigots, but Jewish people and black people have a whole lot to lose if we allow them to make us fight amongst ourselves versus looking up and be like, oh, those people are the problem. Just like the same thing over in Israel and Palestine, like in the Middle East altogether. You have people who basically, if they want to have us be distracted by something, they'll shake the hornet's nest and have the Israelis and Palestinians start fighting each other again. Meanwhile, if the Israelis and Palestinians just looked up and saw who was shaking the hornet's nest, they'd be like, "Oh, that person's the real problem. Let's fight them together." But unfortunately, that won't happen.
Yeah, it's always divide and conquer. Yeah.
Yep.
But I think, do you think if Kamala Harris wins tomorrow, and whenever we find out,
right?
Do you think that Joe Biden will then really start getting tough on Israel, on Netanyahu, about what we're going to continue to give them in terms of weapons and bombs and things?
Well, they did.
Do you think he's been waiting for this election?
They did give him 30 days notice. They gave Netanyahu 30 days notice. Well, they need to let aid in, or else they're going to do an embargo on weapons. And I think they timed that so that the 30 days would end after the election. So that way you're not pissing off certain people, but you're letting other. It's a tightrope that you have to walk, because when you're on the Republican side, the MAGA side, you're basically like, those Trump supporters don't give a crap about the Palestinians and are gonna feign support for the Jews just because it earns them brownie points or whatever. But on our side, we have we have to make sure that the people who support Israel are not pissed off. We have to make sure that the people who support the Palestinians aren't pissed off. Again, they're the ones who get to be shitty and don't get called on the floor for it. Meanwhile, forgetting. There are people who are forgetting the fact that Donald Trump called for a total and complete Muslim ban of Muslims entering this country back in 2016.
Yeah.
Right? And then when I say that, the conservatives are like, well, that's not what he implemented. I'm like, so? I'm going by what he said, what he campaigned on. Just because he wasn't able to get what he wanted immediately doesn't mean he won't try and get that later. And it's I guess it's too big for their that's too big of an idea for their poorly educated brains.
And he did fuck over a lot of people. I remember when he tried to do that. Weren't there a lot of people like just stranded at the airports and stuff? There were all their travel plans. There people were in airports trying to get into America. That all of a sudden were just sitting in the airports because of this travel ban. And I think it got worked out in the court, right, where they had to lift that. But
yeah, I think there was at least one citizen who was a Muslim American who was flying back from one of the 7 countries or whatever where travel was banned, and he was prevented, and I think he had to fight the system in order to make sure that he could get back home. And that's one of the things that even back after 9/11 and when we wrongly invaded Iraq, back then, we had people being anti-Muslim, bigoted, whatever, towards Muslim Americans. I mean, there are Muslims who were fighting for this country, who were working as translators for this country to try and translate things that were going on over there. And why would we want to punish those people who are putting their lives on the line just because they worship a different invisible being than the people in power do? It's mind-numbingly stupid to have those sort of fights, especially at a political level. So, yeah, as Dean Baker says, religion feels like it's a pain in the butt, especially in the Catholic Church. Hey-yo! Anyway.
If you're an altar boy.
Yes. And that's another thing I don't understand. There used to be a joke that I would tell all the time where, they say, what do you get, where the person has to pretend to be the priest has to go to the bathroom. The other person on the other side of the confessional is like, hey, he tells them, hey, can you come do my job for a second? They're like, how can I do your job? Oh, just say, say the words that I say about, oh, child, bless you, child, and then ask what they've done to seek repentance. And then there's a chart, and you have a chart, and you can cross-reference, what you have to do versus what you have to do. So first somebody comes in, says they had premarital sex, looks it up on the chart, tells them to say 3 Hail Marys for our fathers. Another person comes in and says, I cheated on my spouse. He looks up, finds adultery, say 5 Hail Marys, 7 Our Fathers. Perfect, fine. Next person comes in, says, I gave a blowjob. Can't find oral sex on there at all. Opens the door, asks the altar boy, hey, psst, what do you get for a blowjob? Altar boy goes, 2 cookies and a glass of milk.
Jesus.
So, but the fact that joke has existed for so long, that jokes often exist in people often use humor like gallows humor to make light of issues that are serious issues. If those jokes have been along for so long, it's like people knew that these stuff was going on, but yet they were unwilling to do anything about it. So
just sweep it under the rug.
Yeah.
If someone gets caught, they just move them to another parish or whatever.
Exactly. That's what happened. There's somebody here who they've been really, trying to get him punished for all of the acts that he did, but it's gotten to the point where they're having to question whether or not he's mentally capable at this point to stand trial. Is he physically able to stand trial? At this point, he's so old and decrepit that if you do manage to get a conviction and you put him in prison, he's probably going to die shortly thereafter anyway. And, the harm was already done. And in reality, the punishment should be not just on the individual who did the molestation, but it should also be on the people who enabled it and who looked the other way. So.
Yeah. I don't know, I thought they were working on that. I thought the Catholic Church was trying to make a whole, effort to actually do something meaningful instead of just moving people around. They were actually going to try to boot these guys out of the church. And,
I don't. I haven't seen.
you know,
I mean, right now, there's a lot of the Archdiocese of New Orleans is in bankruptcy currently. So, and I think they're currently trying to fight whether or not they should have to pay out these payments to the people who were abused because they're in bankruptcy, and as in while they're in bankruptcy, they should be considered to have the same protections as other people and not have to pay out their creditors or whatever, the people who they owe money to. Of course, again, that's a very Trumpian way to get out of paying a debt. So
I guess when you get they got the power on their side,
I mean, if you looked at there is a little corner that's really close to the Superdome. There's a tower called the Plaza Tower, and it's fallen apart. And like my solution for it, nobody wants to listen to me. But my solution for this thing, chunks of debris have fallen from it and hit people, like from super high. Like it harmed people. I don't know if it killed somebody yet, but it harmed people. They had to put like netting up at the top of it to make sure that nothing more fell. Dealing with that building they should just sell it to somebody in Hollywood and let them blow it up for a movie. But right across the street from that falling apart, dilapidated building is the Archdiocese of the old Archdiocese of New Orleans building, which is also dilapidated, broken windows. It's terrible. It's an eye. But that corner of the city of New Orleans is like one of the biggest eyesores, especially if you ever look at if you ever see a game in New Orleans like that makes like Monday Night Football, or next year the Super Bowl is going to be here. So when you watch the Super Bowl, they're going to have skyline views of the city, and there's going to be all these buildings that are lit up, but the view blocking the Superdome is the Plaza Tower that's not going to be lit up at all. So it's just a big old eyesore. So,
and the Catholic Church doesn't want to tear it down or whatever, I guess.
Well, the Plaza Tower is not the Catholic Church, but I don't know what's going on with the other building that's right next to it that is also. That's the Archdiocese. So you're not going to see that in the ads, but you'll see the Plaza Tower in the aerial shots of the Super Bowl, and it just looks terrible. But yeah, again, the Archdiocese, it's anybody else with that building, you would seize the property as being blighted, and you would go from there. But I guess you're not going to do it with the church because that would piss off too many people. So
you would condemn it. Right?
Yeah.
So are you going to run for office again, or?
I have basically said that I would have to raise enough funds to pay off my campaign, because I have previous campaign debts to myself, if that makes sense. Like, I spent a little bit of my personal money to buy campaign signs, to buy some flyers, to do some other things, that were applicable to the campaign. Raised a little bit of money for one of my in each of the races, but overall I still have debts that are owed to me. So until I can raise enough money to run an effective campaign and have other people supporting it, there's no way that I would do it, and I would just have to fight for political change other ways, I suppose. I would love to. I would love to be able to serve in some sort of elected capacity, but it's I don't think it's in the cards for me at this point. Maybe some point 10, 15 years down the line when I'm a little older, and maybe at that point, if I have a little more financially stable, maybe. But again, you need to have support. You need to have people behind you who are going to be helping you as well, and you can't just do it on yourself and hope that spreading your message is going to raise awareness, because it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's one of the problem with a lot of these. I mean, look, I appreciate anybody who wants to run for office. I have a big problem with when we call people who run for like the House and Senate or local districts also rans. Like, we should not be precluding people, from trying to make a difference. That being said, I don't follow that same rule when it comes to president, because when it comes to president, it's ridiculous to run for president if you don't have down ticket support. And that's one of the problems with third parties. In general, there are definitely some strong problems with individual third party people who are running. Randall Terry ran an ad today on CBS, the head of the Operation Rescue, and showing aborted fetuses like live on the TV or whatever, and I'm sitting there like, what the hell is this ad? And then after the ad, CBS goes, because of federal law, we are required to air this ad. We do not condone it in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, he ran that ad during dinner time, which is kind of gross. But, you know, he's not going to win. He doesn't have down ticket support. Jill Stein's not going to win. Jill Stein may have a little bit more down ticket support than Randall Terry does, but she's not going to win. She's not going to come anywhere close. Why? Because she doesn't have anybody down ticket pushing the same things that she's pushing, and in reality, she's just a Putin stooge. And for president, there's only really one of two options, and it's Harris or Trump. Anybody else, you're throwing away your vote. Now, in states that matter, at least. In other states, like if you live in a state like Louisiana and you want to help the Green Party get matching funds from the federal government for presidential campaigns the next time, or get them onto the debate stage so that you can have them come out, I don't have a problem with that, because we know Louisiana is going for Trump and there's no way about it. So if you want to do that, cool, do that. But if you're in a state that matters and you're voting for anybody other than Vice President Harris, you're helping Trump win, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah. And this is not the time for reform right now, as far as election or all that kind of stuff. I mean,
right? It's like we're busy trying to bail out the sinking ship, and all of a sudden, somebody's like, "Oh, but we can go that way." No, we're not worrying about steering right now. We're worrying about not drowning.
Yeah.
We need somebody who's going to stop the bleeding, and because we are bleeding.
Oh, I see Jolie's in the chat. Hi, Jolie.
Hey, Jolie. Good to see you. Big love from everybody to Jolie. Always appreciate you for all you do. Big virtual long-distance hugs to Jolie and her family. Josh, I need more anti-third party argument. All right. I mean, here's the thing. Like in Louisiana and in other places, Louisiana kind of eliminated some of their open primaries, but we have open primaries for the House and Senate seats. I think it's closed primaries for other things, I believe. And other places have open primaries. Like if you have an open primary and you for the most part can vote your conscience in the first round of the open primary, because if you think that the Green Party candidate is your best person to support your ideas, then fine. Because then if the other person doesn't make the runoff, then guess what? If your person doesn't make the runoff and there is a runoff, then you get to then vote again for the choice of the top two, and then you get to pick the best of those two or the least bad of those two. The only time I've ever not applied that was when the one time there was a mayoral race here in New Orleans. I think it might have been not the last one, but the one before. And there were definitely three candidates who were in the top, and there was definitely one candidate who needed to make the runoff because the other two were so bad. We couldn't risk having the runoff be between the two bad candidates, so I had to vote for the third candidate, even though she wasn't my ultimate favorite, and she ended up winning, so good. But end of the day, all those other people who ran didn't really have a chance. But I'm not going to begrudge them for running on lower level office. That's how you're supposed to get started. You're supposed to get started lower level. Yeah. You don't get started by running for president.
Yeah.
Zadine Baker asks, if there was no electoral college, might that make it possible for more political parties? It would depend on how we did the vote. If we did the vote and we just awarded it based on a plurality, or if we had a runoff system, or if we did instant runoff voting, which should be a thing. And then, of course, the Republicans hate it because the thing with instant runoff voting is that if you have a runoff, like where the top two make it into the next round, so you could have a situation where you have like a Sarah Palin in Alaska, because I think this is what was happening. You have a Sarah Palin in Alaska running up against a couple other people, and let's say Sarah Palin was the number 2 choice of everybody, of the second choice of all of the first round. So she came in second, somebody else came in first. In a normal runoff situation, you'd have those top two going into the runoff. But in instant runoff voting, you basically take the last place person and assign all their votes to the other candidates, see who gets the next, see who then, if there's a clear winner, then go to take the next person's, on the list, so on and so on and so forth. So it's because in that case, it's possible you might have Sarah Palin be, for example, the number 2 candidate or the person who got the second most first place votes of all of the votes, but then she was that if she's last place with everyone else, then she'll never actually win. But if you make it so that it has to be the first and second, you then make it possible that that bad one can make it in. So if you do instant runoff voting so that everybody votes kind of trickles up, so you get a consensus president, then yeah, I think it could work. It could potentially, ranked choice voting could then enable third party runs, and it might even enable a third party wins, because maybe people would be more likely to be voting their conscience and shoving all of the horrible ones at the bottom of the ballot. That being said, you still are not going to win a presidential election without down ticket support. So anybody who runs for president who doesn't have down ticket support, who doesn't have people running in all the House districts, or at least, basically all the House districts, especially in House districts of the states that are swingy. If you don't have people running for the Senate seats that are in those seats that are running, if you don't have people running in the local elections that happen to be on the same day, you're never going to be successful. And it's just you're doing it for some other reason. And in the case of Jill Stein, everyone is of the opinion who doesn't like her candidacy that she's basically just doing it for Putin. Anybody else, again, it's just like, what was it? Cornel West is running as well, I think, in some states. There's nobody down ticket from him, so there's no chance. So
I'm not sure why someone like Cornel West would even bother. He's not. There's no chance in hell for him to win. He just wants to play spoiler or what? I don't know.
I don't know if he wants to make spoiler or if he wants to make a political point. There was the House or Louisiana State House race where I had 2 of the 3 candidates call in, because that was the Mandy Landry race where Mandy Landry won overwhelmingly. And I interviewed the third place guy before we knew he was going to be in third place. But I think we basically knew that the race was just going to be between Mandy Landry and the other woman, and that the third place guy was going to be in third place. And that was going to be the end of it. But he was running specifically to try and, get, I think, more support for his charity, get some more name recognition in a way that maybe might be more effective than just simple advertising. And, he sounds like he has a great big head on his shoulders. I've told him he's probably, with the charity that he runs, he probably should run for the Senate, challenge a Republican the next time instead of running for a local House seat. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. See, somebody says Fred Bear is like Cornell's just trying to make money. Cornell isn't a serious scholar, but seriously entertaining. He can be seriously entertaining. There is an old clip of the Phil Donahue show where you had Cornel West and some other academics who were up there, and then on the stage, like kind of on a panel, and then on the stage you had other black individuals, including Sister Soldier, who got a lot of bad publicity at the time for the things that she was saying and the content of her lyrics. But you listen to Sister Soldier in that interview, in that show, and what she had to say and how she dressed down Cornel West and everybody else and their failures in the community to do what needed to be done. Like, it's impressive. Like, she was an impressive individual, and it's unfortunate that people tried to put her down because of her song lyrics, when in reality she was probably one of the brightest people, if not the brightest person up on stage. So
yeah, I think I remember that, seeing part of that.
Yeah, I mean, every time, we're Facebook friends now, so every time it comes up in my memories, I'm guaranteed to share it as well. So but yeah, it's watch, this always happens to me. I talk about something and then it becomes in my memory the next day, not even remembering that it came into, not even knowing that tomorrow was the day it came into my memory. That happened to me on several things recently. I was like, I was just talking about this and now this is in my memories. How weird is that? So I think Michael Hunt, Ichabod Deer, Kimchi, the goddess Kimchi is in the house.
Hey, Kimchi.
Let's see. I don't know if I've missed anybody else at this point. Alton Gillespie. I don't know if I said hey or not. If I did, you get a double hey. There you go. So, Roxanne. I don't think I said hi to Roxanne. Hello, Roxanne. Thank you for joining the chat as well. Appreciate you, Jackie, Dawn. Yeah, you've been distracting me a lot, John, which is fine, which is good. That's the point. We're supposed to be having a good conversation about the political stuff. So, and we've been going 2 hours almost.
Yeah, it flew by.
Yeah, I mean I can go as long as I can go. The Blog Talk Radio will keep me on for 3, but I can go, pretty much as long as you want. So we can continue chatting as long as you want to. Aaron says Cornel West was on her ballot. So you voted for him? Haha, just kidding. I know you voted for Harris. Let's see. Agoff Twitler. What do the 28 women he sexually assaulted think when he says whether they like it or not? Stop and ask yourself, is that good for women of the world, your mother, sister, daughter, wife? And it's interesting that, you'll have people who will complain when individuals use these are your moms, these are your daughters, these are your sisters, these are your wives. And because they'll say you shouldn't have to try and make it. Someone shouldn't have to be related for you for you to care about what happens to them, and that's in a vacuum. That's true. I mean, I don't. I mean, yes, I have stepsisters. I have a wife. I have a mother. I have those people in my life. I just. I don't need that sort of argument to sway me to support the issues. I support the issues that I do because they're right. But in reality, there are some people in this world who might not be able to see the point unless you point it out to them and say, what if this happened to your daughter? What if your daughter was in the Miss Teen USA pageant and Donald Trump just brazenly walked into the dressing room while they were getting dressed? And, not caring about whether or not they were nude or not. What if your wife was at a Trump rally and Donald Trump thought that she was attractive and he just moved in on her like and grabbed her by the hoo-ha? Are you gonna continue to support Donald Trump despite the fact that he just molested your wife? No. So sometimes people need the personalization of an idea in order for them to be able to grasp it and hold on to it as a concept, because if they don't see how it can affect them, they'll just ignore it and just shrug it off. So
yeah, it's kind of like that argument with the guy about the tariffs.
Yeah,
you had to really bring it home for the guy.
Right. You had to show him. You had to show him how he was going to pay more for the goods that he's buying with the tariffs. And as such, then add on the cost of the consumer, and then be like, "Oh, I get it now." Again, it's why I tend to try and have long, drawn-out conversations with conservative types, simply because of the fact that, I like to try and get them to that point and have them make the realization, because if we can do that more often, I mean, some people are lost causes, sure, but when I can either show a conservative why they're wrong or reveal the hypocrisy of a conservative, I take that as a win. So
it was kind of like, did you see? I forget where I saw it. It was a clip, might have been a TikTok video or something, of this guy who was wearing a safety vest, and he was claiming to be the driver of the trash truck that Trump got into.
Right.
And he was going on about, and I came to the conclusion, I think this is a parody. I hope this is a parody. I don't know. I still don't know for sure. But he was saying how Trump got into the truck and they had this conversation, and he told him to beep the horn, and he said, hey, and Trump said, hey, let's go to McDonald's, and he said, I don't think we can fit, all that kind of stuff. But then he started getting really mad about people like Joe Biden or calling Trump supporters trash.
Right.
And he was really indignant, and he was going, when you call people trash, you're calling you're calling like this whole group of people trash, and that really upsets me. And then I had the realization, I was like, yeah, that's how the Puerto Rican people are feeling. And then that's when I go, wait a minute, I think this must have been a parody, or this was the point this guy was trying to make.
Right.
I don't think he was the real driver. It really got me. He kind of like, kind of tricked me.
Right.
But then I was like, oh, wait a minute, this must be like some sort of like he's trying to get the maggots to watch that or something, and hopefully maybe some of them will go, oh, that's why that was a bad joke. That's why,
There was a Facebook post that I had shared recently where it was talking about like we shouldn't stop children from lying. We should just let them continue lying and do whatever it is. And then it went on for a little bit, and then it made the rhetorical point of, that's why we shouldn't trust Donald Trump. And it didn't say that in all those words, but basically the first half of it was saying something patently absurd to then make a rhetorical point with it. And I had a conservative person who's on my friends list who was like, I can't believe you would support this sort of thing. I'm like, did you read the whole thing, James? And he never responded. I'm like, did you read the whole thing? Because if you read the whole thing, you'd understand the point. But you clearly didn't read the whole thing, and you don't understand the point. Unfortunately. And this person is a generally bright person normally. Like he's like, I wouldn't say he's a grandmaster of chess, but I think he's a Louisiana master of chess, or at least was at one time. He teaches people how to play chess. I've met him via playing board games on just at my friend's house, and he's really good at playing those games. He's very bright, very intelligent at those games, but for some reason it doesn't translate over to politics.
Yeah, it's weird how that happens, because I know I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm not the most educated bright person, and I see other people who I look up to and I think are really smart and educated, and yet they are a Republican, just in general, not even talking about being a maggot. And then that sort of makes me doubtful of what I believe in. Like, sometimes I'll think, am I thinking this right? Am I right on this? How could I be right and that guy be wrong? And when that guy is so much smarter than me,
right?
But I'm like, nah, I'm right. When it comes to most of these issues, like Republican right-wing issues,
right?
Yeah. But still, like, it kind of leaves me scratching my head. Like, how could this guy who's got degrees up the yin yang and whatever, how could he be wrong and I'm right? How does that work? How does that happen?
I mean,
it's not like they're selling out or anything.
There's some people like there are some like attorneys that I know of. There's some like even when it came to whatchamacallit, the guy who was the head of HUD under Trump, the neurosurgeon.
Oh, yeah, sleepyhead.
Yeah, there are some people I think who fill their brains with so much knowledge for their careers that they have no room for anything else. So all the common sense and everything else just falls out. So they're really good at what they do, really good brain surgeon, but nothing else is good because they use so much of their life devoting themselves to brain surgery that anything else is just ridiculous and can't get done. So, so that's one of the reasons that I'll often see that. Like, there was a guy in my fraternity back when I was in college. He was book smart, but he was dumb as a box of rocks. So,
I guess there's just only so much your brain can hold, I
guess. Yeah. But my brain's the best brain. Nobody has a better brain.
All the best words.
I have all the best words. Nobody has better words. It's like, again, it just like he's done it several times recently. He's done that, and it's just like I laugh. It's a joke now. But I wish it would become a joke to more people, and more people would start laughing at him than just kind of yeah, you do have the best words, Donnie. So
I think more and more people are falling away or from him.
I mean, yeah, we're gonna see tomorrow how everything pans out, and we're gonna hopefully turn the final page on this terrible MAGA story. And you know, who know? I don't know. Maybe too. I mean, there are a lot of people in this country who I think who are evangelicals who just don't even vote at all because they don't agree with, I guess, mixing power with religion or whatever. They just don't even bother showing up, which may be fortunate. I don't know, but you know, I wonder how many of these people are just gonna give up if Donald Trump loses, or if they're gonna really just dig in and you know, fight, as bloody-eared Trump tried to say.
Oh, I've got a whole community of like Facebook friends, I guess you call them friends, or like old classmates and people that I knew from way back, and they're on Facebook, and most of them are Trumpers or maggots or whatever, and they're posting stuff like, let's all pray for Trump, you know, and they're, I mean, they really want to pray to Jesus, you know, that Trump wins. And I'm wondering, when he loses tomorrow, which he's going to do, what are they going to think? What kind of excuses are they going to come up with? That God didn't
Right.
hear their prayers or something.
Well, it's like you know, there'll always be a little God ordained to becomes the leader of the country. I'm like, so you should be more respectful of Joe Biden then, because Joe Biden was God's choice, right? I mean, it you know, but again, hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. So, you know, they'll say that God, you know, God's in control. It's just like the whole people who, like, you know, say, hey, I give all the glory to God because I caught the game-winning touchdown. You don't hear anybody saying Jesus made me fumble.
Yeah, or God doesn't like the other team, I guess.
I guess
God plays favorites. He likes, you know, the Rams, because the Rams won yesterday in overtime. He must really think the Seattle fans are a bunch of assholes.
But he hates the Saints because the Saints are on a 7-game losing streak, which is ironic because if there's any team that God should like, it's the Saints. Apparently, the Pope tweeted out something with like hashtag Saints, and and Twitter automatically put a fleur-de-lis after it. And then somebody was like, I don't even think God could help the Saints at this point. Just we just fired our head coach today. I mean, it's spiraling down like crazy. I think they're probably going to look to see who they can trade for future draft picks at this point. I don't think there's any hope.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes. The Rams got hope. So.
Yeah, I'm still pissed at the Rams for...
I know you are. I know you were going to bring that up.
For that clear push-off that...
But that wasn't the Rams' fault. That was the ref's fault.
No, it was absolutely the referee's fault. Absolutely 100%. So, I mean, especially when you look at the other angle, and he's, like, right there, and then he's about to throw the flag, and somebody else is like, don't throw the flag. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? What is going on? Like, it was ridiculous. I mean, we probably would have won the Super Bowl that year. Because we would have done it in Atlanta, which would have been great because the Saints and Falcons are rivals. But you know, I think we would have beaten Brady that year. I mean, we had the team to absolutely take out Belichick and the Patriots, and it just they wanted it to be the Rams and not a bigger TV audience.
Oh, so you think it was fixed?
I mean, it was clearly it was clearly a purposely blown call. It was clearly because it was waved off. They could have funneled together and say, yes, this is pass interference, call the penalty, and they didn't. So I don't know. Goodell had been out after us for a very long time. So I mean, I don't know. We're not here to talk about football. We could talk about football another day. So what a boring. Right. I said, Fred Bear, y'all need to get Drew back. Yeah. I don't think Drew Brees right now is at his tip-top shape. What they need to do is put Taysom Hill in as quarterback, but they're not going to do that because they like him as the Swiss Army knife, I guess. I don't know. Anywho.
Football, you bet. But tomorrow, yeah, back to the election.
Right.
I'm confident. I don't know how do people in the chat. How confident are people in the chat? I know everyone seems to be, you know, anxious. There's a lot of anxiety going on, but I know. I don't know.
I can start a poll. Let me start a poll.
All right.
Are you confident that Harris will win tomorrow? And now my just screens went blank all of a sudden because the thing that connects my two other screens to this. Let's if it hit I don't know if I hit enter if it's gonna post it or not. We're gonna hit enter and see. Just two blank screens right now, just misbehaving. I need to get a new splitter for my screens. I need a new laptop is what I need, but nope, it didn't start the poll. So let's go ahead and see. Oh, there now that's page is disappearing. Why is this so stupid? I think it's because it's just this connector thing that I have is it's just very old, I think, and I think it doesn't like when we have when it stays plugged in for too long at this point. Let's see. Come on. Here we go. There we go. Now the screens are all lit up and back. Start poll. There we go.
Oh yeah, there it is. Well, we got a lot of responses there.
Yeah, it's flooding in.
Well, I do think, like, what will, if Trump does win? I mean, what will really happen? Because I know we're talking about Project 2025 and Gilead and destroying the Constitution. Trump being a dictator, becoming a dictator. I mean, will any of that come true? Is that, how much of that is just fear? We're just, how much of that is not really feasible or whatever?
Well, I mean, we all know. I mean, Project Agenda 47 is Project 2025 for dummies. I mean, that's simple as it is. And Donald Trump, the same people that wrote Project 2025 are the people that advised Donald Trump on his Supreme Court nominations. I think there are certain things that Donald Trump wants to do, and then the rest of it he'll just kind of potentially give up to the other people who are helping him to be in power, be that people who are here like the Heritage Foundation, or maybe people like Putin. I don't know, but it's a precarious situation that we would be in, because if Donald Trump wins, I think it almost guarantees that the Republicans will retain the House and win the Senate. And with them controlling all three branches of government, with how horrible 5 out of the 6 people are of the conservatives on the court, and the 6th coming into play for novel rulings, I'm terrified to see what Donald Trump might do with his powers that he has via the Supreme Court, with his immunity, with his saying that he wants to be the retribution, and he wants to be, he wants to come after people and be dictator on day one. And yeah, he can't be named a dictator. He's going to be president. If he would be president if he won. But if you have a House and Senate and a Supreme Court that is going to blindly follow anything that you want them to do, you're a dictator de facto, dictator. Yeah. So that's one of the other reasons why it's so important to get out there, cast your ballot, get your friends to cast their ballots, because if we don't have all hands on deck, we're done. We're absolutely toast. We need to have everybody out there as possible voting. We need to get the people. We need to find some ways to get the people who are not feeling yay about anybody, about Harris, because she's in the Biden administration and they might disagree with Biden on how he's handled the Palestinian issue and how Israel is dealing with Hamas. They need to understand that it's going to get worse for Palestinians under Trump, and that it's going to get worse for a whole lot of other people across the world under Trump. We haven't even discussed Ukraine much. I mean, you got Ukraine going on. If Donald Trump's not going to allow our stuff to keep going to supply Ukraine,
he'll cut that off.
He'll cut that off, and Ukraine will be steamrolled, and Zelensky will have to flee somewhere, probably if he's able to get out, and Putin will then be like, what's next on the menu? And maybe he goes after Poland. I don't know. They always ask, the conservatives always ask, why, if Putin's so bad and Trump's so bad, why didn't Putin invade anybody while Trump was president? Because he didn't have to. Donald Trump ceded power to Vladimir Putin in the Middle East, in I think in Syria. He tried his hardest to weaken NATO. So
Right.
he, it's just Putin doesn't have to do anything when Donald Trump is president because Donald Trump does his dirty work for him.
Yeah.
So
That's the beautiful thing about having Trump as the president. He won't stand in your way.
right.
You can do whatever you want. And also, the other scary thing is, Trump is about a Big Mac away from croaking, and then we end up with J.D. Vance as president.
That crazy.
That's even more horrifying. I think.
And he got up there on stage today, called Vice President Harris trash. So, come on. You can't sit here and whine and complain and moan about being called trash and then call somebody else trash. And hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite, as I've said over and over again. Stephen Sayer says, remember when Trump wanted a military parade? Yes, I brought that up earlier in the show. Again, it's what wannabe dictators do. They want to have military parades in their honor. Now, if Trump said we should have a parade in this country to celebrate the military, sure, nobody would argue with that. But Trump didn't say that. He said he wanted a parade for him. He wanted the military to celebrate him because he sees what Kim Jong-un has. He sees what President Xi does. He sees what Vladimir Putin has. And he sees the authoritarianship of Viktor Orban. He sees all of these people and how they rule and how people fear them and how people and how they're willing to just do anything that they ask. And he wants that for him too, because anything that feeds his ego is just about as important as anything that feeds him a cheeseburger. So.
And also what we've seen with the Ukraine war and Russia, they've been exposed as not being that great of a military, right, after all. And it's all for show. And those parades that's what those parades are about. It's all for show. It's all this shiny new stuff they put out there. But as like Philip Ittner talks about on Hal Sparks, or even Hal Sparks talks about it, the equipment is their main equipment they have. It's just been sitting there and rotting. It's not been repaired. It's all crap. People have been siphoning money out of their military budgets probably and ripping them off. And that's the same thing would happen if Trump is president. They always talk about how he's this, he would be this great military leader, or he's strong on defense. He would just do everything he could to just, siphon money out of the defense budgets or whatever, somehow get it into other people's hands, get it into his hands, and our military would go to shit. It'd be just like Russia. Russia has a shitty military. China has a shitty military. North Korea and everything. It's all show. It's all for show. And that's what Trump would do to our military. So people talk about how, Trump is strong in defense and the Democrats are weak. It's always the opposite. It's always the opposite, isn't it?
Yeah, every conservative accusation is a confession.
Yeah, so much projection and all that. It's just amazing. So that's why we can't lose tomorrow. Kamala Harris has to win.
Yes.
Because otherwise, it's just so many things. So many things. It's like this domino effect that will happen.
And I know you're going live. When do you go live tomorrow?
I'll be going live tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Okay, so 9 Pacific, 11 my time, 12 noon on the East. That's always obviously before Hal Sparks. Kind of like the Hal Sparks pre-show for all the cool kids. And then, are you doing anything later or no?
No, I don't think so. I'm just going to do my 9 to 11, and then Hal's going to come on tomorrow. He said he's going to start at 11. So it is like a pre-show. And then I think I'm just going to watch Hal Sparks and watch stuff and just kick back, pop open a Pabst Blue Ribbon or two, and just see what happens, and hope for the best.
Yeah,
but I'm confident Kamala's going to win. Biden beat him in the popular vote by 8 million votes, and he of course won the Electoral College. I forget what the breakdown was, but he won that pretty handily. I think Kamala Harris. I don't see why she can't do at least his numbers are better. Biden's numbers are better.
Right. Well, if it's the numbers, the sheer numbers nationwide, is like, yes, that's awesome. It's just so many of the states are just so tight. Like it's the difference in the electoral states that matter. Like
Yeah.
only winning Georgia by 11,000, only winning was, I think Pennsylvania might have been like in the tens of thousands or whatever. Not, I don't think it was quite yet 100,000. You had Michigan, Wisconsin, just these slim victories. Arizona, right. Slim, everything just so slim margins that's why it's so vital for everybody. I mean, if you haven't voted out there, you need to get out and vote. If you haven't voted, if you have no friends that are out there that haven't voted, especially in states that Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, all of these places where there are important things on the ballot. Even if you don't think Harris can win Texas, try and get out there and boot Cruz. Even if you don't think Harris can win Florida, try and get out there and protect abortion rights in Florida. You got to get out in North Carolina and vote against Mark Robinson. I mean, that's just terrible. And the fact that it is a shame on this country that Donald Trump has been allowed to retain this popularity, this that he's still able to keep going on, and that there's still enough people to justify him running again. But the rest of us in this country, the sane people, need to just all pull together, get together, do the right thing, get out and vote if you haven't done so already, make a difference, be the change you want to be in the world, and help get Vice President Harris into the Oval Office as President of the United States. So
Absolutely. And there people in this chat room are from all over the country. I know we have people from other countries, but a lot of people here in the States, they're from all over. A lot of people live in these battleground states, these swing states. Make sure you vote. Yeah, like Dan was saying, make sure your family, your friends, everyone's voting. You can't sit it out. There's no time to just sit it out. Got to make sure we get a vote.
Even if you live in a state that doesn't matter, like the only your vote, you getting out there and vote is just one more electoral college vote on top of all the one not electoral college vote, one more popular vote that's going to embarrass Trump even more. So even if you don't think the state's going to win, your state's going to win, get out there, vote for Harris anyway, because the more you can pile on top of it, the more he's going to go absolutely batshit crazy. And if he, I want it. Not only do I want to see him lose, I want to see the full-on mental breakdown as it's happening live on TV. So
who knows what he's going to do? How many mic stands is he going to go down on?
He's going to have a mic. He's going to have the mic in each hand and just do his little fist pump thing, little tug that he likes to do.
My AC just kicked on. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not.
I think I heard a little bit. It's fine. Whatever.
I
think
vote, everybody, vote.
Yes, I think I'm pretty much hitting the end. I think is anything else you want to add? Do you want to do another shout out for your stream? I know I tagged you in the show description, in the episode description here on YouTube, so everybody can link to your channel that way. But just anything else you want to shout out before we go ahead and end?
Just vote. Make my prediction come true. My prediction was that Biden won in the popular vote by about 8 million votes. I predicted Kamala Harris would double that and go to 16 million. So
that would be amazing.
Everybody vote. And I am, and there's my schedule right there. I am on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. to about 9 a.m. Pacific time. Thursdays we do 2 shows, 9 a.m. Pacific time and at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Saturday I'm on at 11 a.m. right after Hal Sparks. So yeah, check it out. We have fun, just like we had fun here. I had a great time, Dan. It was great time hanging out with you.
We will definitely do it again. I am very happy to have you on. This is fun. This is a great time, and it was a very important show. But again, it shows it's important. A lot of people in the media were trying to say about the women getting out to vote or whatever, and some people made it a point where they were like, I think the men are going to come out on the issues as well. And clearly, you and I agree on the issues, and we these issues are very important for us very important, regardless of the people we have in our lives, we know that these issues are important to everybody. And there's got to be more men out there who are going to be like us as well, to get out there and vote and prove the pundits wrong in that, come out in force and help Vice President Harris carry the day, so that we can, protect our country. So with that, thank you so much, John. I appreciate you. Your show's great. Everybody should go subscribe if you haven't done so already to John's show. The YouTube page is linked on the YouTube channel, liberaldenradio.com, on this episode thread. But also, I think if you're not on the Friends of the Show Yet tab, you should be. But if you're not, I'll make sure you're on there as well. So again, thank you so much. Appreciate you as always, and you have a good rest of your night.
All right, you too now.
Thank you so much. Bye. All right, that was Trucker John. It was a great show to have John on. Appreciate everybody joining in, having fun. Didn't do as much potentially discussion with the chat that I wanted to. We did have the poll, and it was 79% of the people who thinks that Vice President are confident that Vice President Harris will win. I love to see that. That makes me a little more confident as well. Again, we are going to be on tomorrow as well. I'm going to come on 7 p.m. is when I'm going to start the show. 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, so 5 Pacific. We're going to start the live stream because we want to come in as soon as the 8 o'clock Eastern polls close, so we could start seeing those numbers. I mean, I'll be watching MSNBC up on my screen, but we won't play the audio for copyright reasons. So again, no Nerdy Dan tomorrow. It's just Liberal Dan Radio tomorrow. Here, probably not even Blog Talk Radio. We're just going to do liberaldanradio.com, maybe and also on Twitch. So, hop by all of the channels. Make sure to give all of the Trucker John, Dude, myself, Hal, Boss, and Brian. Make sure to like all of these people's channels. Help the algorithms out. Help us all grow. Until tomorrow, this is Dan Zimmerman with Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.